Welcome to the People's Guild.
Each week we explore the Splinterland universe with guests from all across the mythical land of Praetoria.
Join us on our journey as we discuss the evolution of the game, the strategy, the lore, and the exciting path that lies ahead.
To support the People's Guild, make sure you subscribe, rate, and review wherever you get your podcasts, and also check us out on Peakd, YouTube, and Twitter.
Send your questions, suggestions, and epic battles in our comments through Twitter or email at thepeoplesguildspl@gmail.com. We'll feature the best in our episodes and maybe airdrop you some prizes.
Thanks for tuning in and enjoy the show.
Welcome back to the People's Guild. Another week, another episode. A wonderful guest we've got teed up for you today. Conversation. We're about 20 minutes late to hitting record. We've had a lot of fun already. I think you guys are certainly in store for a fun conversation. I'm really excited to get this guy's tale on air. He's been with the game for a couple of years now. I called him an OG. He was quick to correct me. He's got one of the best introductions. I always love hearing this guy get called out on town halls. Anybody who's got their mic not muted is going to proudly welcome this man to the stage with the infamous Jimmy. We've got the one and only FatJimmy. Jimmy, welcome to the show, man.
Jimmy, thanks for having me, man. Actually, I wanted to ask you: do you pronounce your name? Are you Bojangles or Bajangles?
It's Bjangles.
Bjangles. Yeah. Look,
it was definitely inspired by old Bobby, but yeah.
Right on.
Yeah.
Nice. Cool.
Yeah, man. So I want to do my Mike Myers a coffee talk impression. FatJimmy, neither fat nor Jimmy. So tell us about the name. Tell us a little bit about FatJimmy amps.
Yeah, that all came out from the amps, actually. The whole FatJimmy thing. It was oh man, I got to start in the middle somewhere, I guess. I lived on the road for years, playing music. It was literally in a band for about 5 years with a van and a trailer, traveling around the country doing about 200 shows a year. And you have to learn how to fix your own amplifiers. Playing an old vintage Fender tube amp, and you got to learn how to fix it. Kind of like driving an old Volkswagen bus around. You got to know how to maintain the thing. Learned how to do that. Met some of the right people, some of the best people in the business actually for amp stuff. Ended up working on old vintage Fenders. That was my business, vintage Fender amp repair, and I would work exclusively on vintage Fenders. And then through more playing and more networking and stuff, decided to start building my own. And when the time came to name the company, there was no it wasn't like this whole process, coming up with a name, coming up with a logo. It was just very obvious that it should be called FatJimmy. To me, it just seemed like the most natural thing in the world. For whatever reason. No, so Jimmy is, I think, the most used name in rock and roll. Like if you start opening your ears when you're listening to like classic rock and old rock and roll, you will start hearing the name Jimmy just jumping out left and right. Once you're aware of it, you start to hear it.
Well, there's certainly a couple that jump to mind, Page and Hendrix. What are some of the other ones that you'll tack on that list?
Well, let's see. Top of my head, Rolling Stones. I was standing in line with Mr. Jimmy. When you start thinking lyrically is when you'll start hearing it more and more and more and more. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Nice. What was the band you were in? What was the name of the band?
That was a band called Mountain of Venus.
Okay.
Yes, which not mountains, plural, singular, Mountain of Venus. There's multiple meanings for that in different languages. But yeah, we were touring around. There was the whole, post, let's see, we started around 99, 2000 on the road. So yeah, post-dead jam band festivals were starting to pop up all over the place, but there still weren't that many. Yeah, so we were cruising around doing our thing.
Nice. You guys just jam band style original stuff too, or were you doing covers, mixing stuff in?
I'd say 90% originals.
Okay.
I think we had like 50 or 60 originals in rotation, and always adding more. And, we just throw the fun covers in there, like some of the ones, like we used to do 3 Days by Jane's Addiction. Zeppelin, we did The Song Remains the Same, Four Sticks, What Is and What Should Never Be. The ones you don't really hear all too often.
A lot of B-side stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I think Led Zeppelin would take offense to that one being called a B-side hep, but
Of course,
classic.
Always do War Pigs. That was another classic that would get the crowd going.
Oh man, I'm a huge fan of the jam band scene, and I love seeing War Pigs. Are you familiar with Humphreys McGee?
Yes.
Yeah, I think in the last few years, maybe a little bit longer than that now, but War Pigs has kind of become a staple in their set list as a cover.
They copied us.
They must have seen Mountain of Venus. They must have caught you guys. Well, tell us, Jimmy, what is Mountain of Venus? What is the name?
Okay, so I guess from beyond, in all candor, the Latin name is Mons Veneris, which is a specific part of the top of the female anatomy. Yeah, I guess to be brutally frank, but we did have a female lead singer, so it was totally PC. That was the whole.
20 years later, and still tossing the asterisks, man. I love it.
That's right. You had to make that. No one ever knew what it was, and everyone called us Mountains of Venus, which was the biggest pet. We hated that. That was our pet peeve.
You guys have some studio albums, it looks like.
We did one studio. Let's see, we did two. We did one was like a demo. It's got the Botticelli on the front there, the Birth of Venus. That was a demo we did in like a weekend in Steamboat, Colorado, after being together for like a week. And we had enough original music at that point that we're just like, let's just freaking put an album together. And it all kind of came together pretty quick. And I think there's another like 5-song studio stint that we did at one point too.
Oh, that is awesome, man. And you've got a couple of live recorded albums available for listening pleasure. Can people check out Mountain of Venus on Spotify, Apple?
I don't even know, honestly. I just went back to Fayetteville for the weekend, where several band members still live, and we were just digging through old recordings from like 2004 that we never really heard before. They were just kind of sitting there in a box. Now we're just kind of going through and want to kind of compile some. There's a lot of great old stuff out there.
That's beautiful, man. Any chance of a reunion tour? And
no, nothing like that. We did a 2-show reunion with Steve Kimmock in Fayetteville a couple of years right before COVID.
Damn,
that was cool.
Jimmy dropping names. Steve Kimmock on the lineup is brilliant.
You know Kimmock. I
do, yeah. I caught the Rhythm Devils, I guess 16 years ago. It was Mickey Hart, Steve Kimmock, Kreutzmann. Yeah,
I might have been there helping Steve out at that point in time. I do a lot of tech work for him when he's in town. He probably played, I want to say, close to a dozen full shows with Mountain of Venus, where it was billed as Mountain of Venus with Steve Kimmock for the whole run. We were doing that in Quixotes in Denver, and then in Mexicali Blues in Teaneck, New Jersey. South Jersey guy might recognize that there.
That's right.
Get out of the Pine Barrens, head up north, and so yeah, these guys were both deadheads, and they loved Kimmock and they loved us, and they both just put us together several times. So that's how I kind of became close with Steve through that, as a musician. He loved playing with our band. We loved playing with him. And as the years went by, he's the guy who kind of really pushed me towards digging into amps and learning about them more, and introduced me to the guy who I think is probably one of the greatest amp people alive on the planet now that Dumble died. Dumble died like last year, Howard Dumble. His amps are, I think he made like 300 of them. They're selling for $100K easy these days. Wow. And so he passed about a year ago. I think Bill Crenard is the most brilliant amp guy on the planet right now. And he knew Kimmock, 20, 30, 40 years ago. They've known each other forever. Steve hooked me up with him and said, hey, you guys should talk. And we just hit it off. And he's a big reason that I was able to progress as far and as fast as I could with my amp work, just by becoming friends and asking the right questions, and him sharing information that I don't think I could have stumbled across in 20 or 30 years of trial and error.
Wow. Yeah. So I'm assuming you don't have like an electrical engineering background, master's degree or anything. No,
self-taught again, from learning how to do it. But you teach yourself that stuff. I mean, there's a point I was reading every single book on electronics I could get my hands on, from the high school and college textbooks from the 50s about tubes, all the way up to the Navy NEATS course. Just reading through it and taking what I could learn from that, and applying it, to
Wow.
real applications.
Beautiful, man. Well, I can definitely appreciate you taking the old school route, self-taught, self-made, FatJimmy amps. If you're a musician out there, if this guy isn't in your kit, go to fatjimmyamps.com, check it out. And you may stumble across a Bob Weir custom kit tab on that website. And we were talking a little bit off air about, Grateful Dead affinities and kind of the various iterations. And, sure enough, you kind of answered my question before I could ask it. But can you tell us a little bit about what was that story like, kind of coming in contact with Bobby Weir and putting together his amp kit for him?
Oh man, there's okay. It's a whole. It's an intricate webbed background, basically, is what that comes to. That all came to fruition through the Kimmock thing, through the Kimmock connection. After Mountain of Venus split up and I wasn't playing much anymore, Steve would just hire me at shows. He'd be like, "Hey, I'm going to be you around. I'm going to be doing 3 shows at the Fillmore or whatever." So he'd show up and tech for him, start doing amp stuff, tuning guitars, stuff like that. We were doing that with our friend Rudson Shirtliff, who was Ramrod's son. Ramrod was the Jerry Garcia's guitar tech for most of the history of the Dead until he handed it off to Parrish. And Ramrod became the president of the Grateful Dead, the entire business. So by the 80s, Ramrod was running the whole show, and also Jerry's guitar tech and amp tech. I don't know. Again, I think it had to be LSD to allow them to do so much at once, but they pulled it off. Anyway, let's see. So yeah, I started doing a lot with Kimmock, and then Kimmock was doing a lot with Bob Weir at the time. Kimmock was the one of the 2 guitarists who took the place in the other ones. After the Dead stuff, after Jerry died, then 3 years later, all those guys toured as the other ones, and Steve Kimmock was one of the guitarists in there. So he goes back to Bobby. I guess they were playing together in the 80s in Kingfish and just random projects. And Kimmock was playing with Keith Godchow in the Heart of Gold band in the late 70s. So his connection to that whole Dead world is pretty deep. But anyway, he started inviting me to stuff, and Weir was around, and then Weir did the him and Sammy Hagar reopened the Sweetwater in Mill Valley, which was this famous old club that everyone used to play at. Garcia used to play there with projects and stuff. Little bar closed down. He reopened it, and he was playing there a lot. So was Kimmock. So we just kept running into him, kept bumping into him, and Steve kept talking to him about, I guess, my amps at that point, or at some point, or mentioned him several times. And anyway, he wanted to try one out. So he's like, "Hey, come by my, TRI studio." He's like, "Come on by and we'll see what happens." So I bring an amp. I know he liked Vox, so I bring this little Vox AC15 style clone that I built. It's not really a clone. I always change things a little, but it was, close to a Vox build. And we set it up there. I get there and there's his tech. We set it up next to his hand-wired AC30, Vox AC30, real Vox. And we just get it all set up. Bobby comes in, he plugs into the Vox, goes dink dink a couple times, plugs into mine, dink dink dink, goes back and forth like 2 or 3 times, and he's like, "All right, let's do something." And it's like, "All right, that sounds good, man." And so we just started talking, and we sat down, and we're like, he's like, "Hey, I'm thinking about," and he just throws like this craziest stuff out there. He's like, "Yeah, I'm thinking I want to do like a stereo amp. I don't want to play 2 amps. I want to play 1 amp that's stereo, but I want the controls to be 1 set of knobs instead of 2. So if I turn the knobs, I'm turning both of them, and all this stuff." And I'm sitting there thinking, I've never built anything like this. And like, yeah, I guess, it sounds feasible. I think I have a general idea of how I might make that happen. And And he's like, all right, cool. We'll be in touch. And then, we go back a week or so later to finalize some stuff. And, he adds some more stuff, specifications. He's like, all right, so I'm thinking this. He's like, what do you think? I'm like, yeah, I think I can make that happen. He's like, well, we're going to be on Jimmy Fallon in 3 weeks. And, it takes that long to order cabinets, for God's sake, or, a faceplate or something like this, like 3 weeks. It's an outside chance, but yeah, I might be able to have this designed and manufactured in 3 weeks. And just went for it and literally delivered it to him like the day before the Jimmy Fallon show, brought it into the rehearsal, and they tried it out and it worked. And the next day it was on TV.
And talk about an entrance that, man, being, some of the things we were talking about off air, you disclosed that you're a Deadhead, caught some of the original Grateful Dead shows back in the day. That had to be such a personal and clearly professional achievement for you. Like, man, how cool of a feeling is that to have, some guy that you grew up kind of watching on stage. The music obviously has, tons of memories tied for you in your life. And, in the Dead community, I know, the power of music is it's very amplified, pun intended there. So what does that mean to you to have somebody like Bob Weir, endorse your product and to this day, he's been using FatJimmy amps for a while now at this point.
Yeah, he's got about 15 of them, I think, roughly, because every project he needs two. That's what those guys did. You build one, then they have to have one as a backup, in case something goes wrong. And every project required a different amp. He's like, hey, could you build me something like this for, I'm leaving on a month with these other guys. And so I just kept building stuff. But it's a huge honor, honestly, like to be able to work with your idols like that is just, it's mind blowing, and there's definitely a weird separation that has to happen because, they're people just like you. Even though they're like, you have them, your whole life, they've been on this like whole different place in your mind. They're untouchable. You never thought you'd be able to, whatever, interact with them, meet them, work with them. That was never something you really think about as, a reality. And to be able to do that, when that actually happens is, it's amazing. And, definitely a honor that I'm grateful to have, very much so.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's just really impressive. I'm blown away by that. That's just amazing. And it seems like, looking on your website, it seems like you have a lot of other, big names, big recognizable acts that you've worked with. I mean, yeah, it's phenomenal. I mean, even like John Fogerty is, someone who, I always thought is just like such a phenomenal guitarist. Have you built, so he's on your name. Have you built, how many amps have you built for him? Do you, have you got to interact with him at all?
Yeah. He was one of those where, again, I was saying before, I lost my train of thought, but it came back to people. You have to realize these are just people. And when you start treating them like people, they treat you like people. And it becomes a lot easier to interact and to deal and to work with, on a person to person level. And I think a lot of these people appreciate that too. John Fogerty, when that one came through, that was one of those, there's your email and it says, from John Fogerty in the thing. And you're like, all right, this can't be John Fogerty, is it? And then you open the thing and it's all this polite little email like, hi, my name is John Fogerty, and I was curious about your Jimmy Jr. amplifier. I was wondering, how much and lead time and all, if you could build me one. And so I got back to him and started talking, and yeah, it's John Fogerty. So I'm like, all right, John Fogerty, yes, I'll build an amplifier.
Twist my arm, Mr. Fogerty.
And I know you're not supposed to, but yeah, you cut the line. I'm usually in a 2 to 3 month lead time, but if John Fogerty wants an amp, I'll build it next.
I think your other customers would understand
or something. Yeah. But so he built that. He said it was he got it. He thought it was one of the best amps he ever played, is what he told me. And then he immediately ordered a second one, and then he got a third. So he got a second Jimmy Jr. Then he ordered a different, larger model that he played. But during COVID, he was doing all these videos with his kids on his ranch in California. And so there's all these outdoor shots, and the Fat Jimmy's in almost every one of them.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's fun to watch. If you start looking for the John Fogerty on YouTube where he's playing with his kids, you'll see him playing a Fat Jimmy all over the place there.
All right, can check that
Man,
out.
that is so cool, man. And as you're kind of rattling off these names, Jimmy, I'm thinking, how many times have I been in the presence of a Fat Jimmy amp? I caught the Wolf Brothers before I left. I caught John Fogerty's, I think it was the 50th anniversary show in Red Rocks, summer of 2019. Fat Jimmy amps must have been there. Caught Dead & Co., The Dead, handful of times. So we're separated by fewer degrees of separation than I would have initially imagined. And now Splinterlands is what brought it together. It's very cool, man.
You never know when you're going to be hearing one. I mean, like the Foo Fighters, they've been using one for their bass for a couple years now. Let's see, Chris Robinson, he started, from the Black Crowes, he started playing him. He got him for his whole Brotherhood band at one point. He wanted every single person in the band to have a Fat Jimmy. Due to a psychedelic New Year's Eve event at Terrapin, where he literally, I brought amps for everybody. And he's like, dude, after the show, he's like, man, under the stage, I swear to God, these things were talking to the electricity. We got to get this for everybody. They were literally connected through the electricity under the stage, and this forest of energy just started growing. And it's all because we were playing all Fat Jimmys. So I was like, all right, man.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was.
But that was, again, all through Terrapin. Then Terrapin was Phil Lesh's place. We were mentioning that Dead connection again. This was this whole other side of things where, Bob and Phil were both so... they gave so much back to their community over the past decade, here in the San Rafael area, just in the music. Those guys never really stopped playing. The Dead stopped, Garcia died, and they just kept going with different projects and doing different things. And then Terrapin Crossroads was just this incredible, it was a global destination. It was this big restaurant venue that Phil opened. And they had music in the like right in the middle of the dining room, right? There was the bar and then this big stage and then the rest of the restaurant. And there was music several times a day. He employed musicians and paid them well to come play at his place. And there was the restaurant bar. And then there was something called the Great Room, which was like 350 to 400 people. And then there was an outdoor spot that they acquired that had, I think it was 1,700 people could go to a show out there. So started just playing there as a house musician, and then started playing with Phil eventually while there. And that was another one of those things, just a insane honor, something you never really think that would happen, but it did. And then it just very, very, very grateful for the experience and to be able to do that and to talk with him too. Besides making music with this guy, just being able to talk to him about crazy stuff, like imagine talking to Phil, after a show that we did, I'll be hanging out with him and like, I don't know, someone like Stu Allen, who's plays a lot there, who was a great guitarist. And we'd just be talking to Phil, and me and Stu are both deadheads. And we'd tell Phil like all these like crazy stories that were like gospel to the fans, but they never heard, when you're telling them like, you guys were heads. So Unbroken Chain, they came out in like 75. They never played it ever. And the rumor among deadheads was as soon as they play Unbroken Chain, that's the end. That's the end of their deal. And they broke that song out in 1995, and they stopped playing in 1995. It's like the prophecy came true.
Yeah, lore confirmed.
And I told Phil that. That was what was spoken, and it blew his mind. He's like, no way. But I don't know, it's just amazing to talk to him. What made you bring that back after 20 years, and he's like, oh, my son wanted to hear the song, so we started playing it, stuff like that. Why'd you stop playing Saint Stephen? Why'd you stop playing Dark Star? And getting the actual story from all that, just amazing and an honor for sure. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Man, I
Man,
could do this for another hour, but
I was
guess
just gonna say,
should we
I
talk
can
about
geek.
Splinterlands at some point? Or you
No,
have
no, no. Let's
questions on,
push
this or
time out there for a second. Let's push time out there for a second. Yeah, I could totally geek out on music stuff all day, and I'm sad. I had an XM subscription for a long time, and the Grateful Dead channel was like 95% of my listening and hearing. I forget what the hour is called, but it's like a sit down with Steve Parrish, and
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. That's a good little thing, man. And
it's so much fun hearing, like he's on another level in terms of his stories. You know, his perspective and like his viewpoint, his vantage point for all of the history of the Grateful Dead is, you know, he's one of the last guys to be able to talk about that sort of stuff. And I always found it so fascinating to hear his stories. And now I'm just imagining where was FatJimmy during some of these stories? Like, where was he around? Was he smoking a joint with Steve behind stage, or where was he at, man?
One or two, I might have been floating around here and there, but no, he's awesome. And there were a bunch of guys like that we got to interact with. You know, Kid Candelario, who made all of the cables for the Dead during their whole, you know, Kid made the cables and he was Phil's bass tech, you know, and then Robbie, who was Phil's other guy. Yeah, there's just all these the wizards of the tech world, you know, the stage hands, the road crew. You know, these guys were geniuses in a way. What they did was absolutely incredible. But Parrish, he was the one, you know, because him and Kimmock are good friends. And at one point there was a show, we were back at a Weir show, and Parrish comes up to me and he's like, "Hey man, you know, Steve's talking really highly of your amps." And, you know, he just gave me these huge props and told me he respected what I did as an amp builder. And when that came from Parrish, I was like, all right, that's pretty freaking cool right there. I can deal with it.
Oh, yeah, man, I'm just blown away. I'm going to echo what Hep said earlier. What a cool story. I'm so glad that we get the honor and the privilege of just hearing your stories, man. It's very, very cool. Have you ever been, you know, I can imagine if you were going to feel starstruck, having that conversation with Bobby Weir might have been the icing on the cake. Have you ever felt starstruck by interacting with clients? Has there been one that kind of sits above the rest that, like, you just could not believe that you were working with on a professional basis?
No, not yet. I don't think so. Because they kind of started big. You know, when you start with, like, you know, Weir as one of your first artists that you're working with, and then he was so easy to work with too. You just lose that whole, again, that element of dealing person to person just comes back, you know, and Kimmock helped me with that just by being around it for years, even before I started working with them or even building amps. I was just around them, you know what I mean? So you're dealing with them, and you're eating with them, and you're just hanging out and seeing people as people. So there might be a few, like, if, you know, I had to do something with like Jimmy Page or David Gilmour or something, I might be starstruck, you know. Probably would be, but I would try not to be. You are inside, but you just got to try to, you know, treat them like people. You know, that's
beautiful, man.
Oh,
all right.
One more fun story.
Indulge us.
I scared the shit out of David Crosby once. I managed to get backstage at a place where I probably shouldn't have been, and Crosby and Nash were playing. This was in Chico, and Crosby comes, we literally almost bump into each other around the corner. You know, we come around this corner, and it was literally, we just pretty much bump into each other, and our eyes meet, and you could tell, like, he knows, I recognize him. You know, he sees that I recognize him. There was that one split second where I saw in his face, he was like, holy shit, what's this guy gonna do? And I was just like, you know, I was just like, oh man. I was like, thank you for the music, sir. And I bow and kind of get out of the way, and he just smiles and walks off. But yeah, you could tell he was like, what's gonna happen right now?
I was half expecting you to say your Jimmy was like the first thing that you say to these you know, guitarists and musicians of legend is you just open with the Jimmy.
Well, there was an amazing moment where we were waiting for Phil for a show. It was an outdoor show, and all of us are just waiting for him to show up. He'd usually show up 5-10 minutes before, right? And he comes walking up, and we've been doing the Jimmy thing for a while now. You know, everyone calls everyone Jimmy. We're trying to replace Dude, basically. That was the whole point. And Phil, we're all standing there, and Phil comes walking up, and he just, steps into the circle, and we make room for him, and it's quiet for a second, and he just looks at everyone in turn. Then he looks at me, and he goes, "Jimmy!"
Yes.
And he throws his head back and starts cracking up. That was an amazing moment too. Ever since then, we called each other Jimmy, and
Oh man, that is beautiful. Beautiful.
It happens.
All right. Well, I guess Hep, are you finished geeking out on music? Are we ready to turn this ship back towards Praetoria?
I guess we should.
Splinterlands has some great music too, man. Did you notice the new battle music in the last upgrade?
I sure did. Yeah, I picked it up on the lineup music. I love, man, the music adds, we're all music aficionados here. The music adds such a cool element to the game. I was super excited to hear some new stuff. I wasn't sure if my ears were tricking me or if I had just played with the game on mute too long, listening to my own music. But I definitely caught some new tunes yesterday. That was cool to hear.
Yeah, new battle music is awesome. Hats off to Azaria for that. I was definitely riding the guys about that for a while, because I mean, then when they did the new music change, what was it, 6 months ago, 8 months ago, where it became like an epic movie soundtrack. That change was freaking amazing. I still think that's listening to that music while the battles are playing out is just freaking awesome. I think they did a great job with that. And I just never thought the battle music page didn't match, because it was like, I called it dance party music. You're sitting there making your team, and all of a sudden this like beat kicks in. It's like doom, bah, doom, bah. And you're like, this doesn't fit the vibe. And I just kept bothering Nate, and Azaria's like, well, I have music already. It just hasn't come up. They haven't put it up yet. So just kept pushing. Then it finally happened. And very happy with the new battle selection music.
Awesome.
I don't want to be dancing. I want to be sweating. I want to be making a team. I want to be shitting when it's down to 10 seconds and I still have to put 3 cards up there.
Yeah, it's a tense moment.
Yeah, I've heard. I hadn't seen that you'd been calling for the music, but that you do have a little bit of an infamous acronym kind of associated with your name in Splinterlands community at this point. What is the acronym?
Always on in-game notification system, AOGNIS.
AOGNIS, that's the one.
Full credit to Vedev, my guildmate, for that one. I kept spelling it. I thought it was hysterical I would spell it out in its entirety. When always on in-game notification system for when action is needed in brawls and tournaments. That's what I would type out every time. And then Vedev was finally just like, AIOGNS. And it's like, oh yeah.
Nice, man. Well, we connected a little bit by chance yesterday. Kind of, we've had this episode in the books for a couple of weeks, and I don't remember coming across you in the rank scene, at least recently. But coincidentally, we ran into each other yesterday, and it was kind of serendipitous timing that we were, gearing up for the episode the next day. How are you finding the new modern system? Are you kind of reinvigorated? Are you feeling refreshed and re-excited, reignited for ranked play?
Yeah, I think so. I think I'm when I'm on working in my shop here, I usually have my computer on the side, and like 9 times out of 10 map chats on or something like that, just scrolling, so you can just watch stuff. And excuse me. No, it seems like today, being the first full day, people are pretty damn psyched about it. So the first day, second day, people seem to be really excited and really invigorated about manual play, which is awesome. I never botted my account, so I don't know. I'm not that good at modern either. That's something I have to get better at. I'm used to wild. There's certain things you see, and I'm just like, all right, let me throw up freaking Lord of Darkness and Unicorn, and then you're like, oh, I don't have that. You start making teams and you realize you don't have that key card that's in wild, Peaceful Giant. Where's, back to basics. Let me throw Peaceful Giant up there. No, I don't have him. It's tough getting used to the, not having those amazing cards. But in a way, it's easier having less cards to choose from too.
Yeah, it's definitely a little overwhelming.
Yeah.
I know I was looking at your collection today. You've got a really solid collection, a lot of those older cards, but you got into the game around Untamed. So I think you were telling us earlier. So I kind of want to know, like, to take a step back, like what got you into Splinterlands, and then what made you, obviously like it so much to want to invest all this money into getting a lot of these the older alpha beta promo card sets.
That would be, let's see, it all started. You guys familiar with the Bad Crypto podcast?
I've heard of that. Yes, I have listened to that a couple times. Yeah.
Okay. I got into that. That was when I first got into crypto. It was like the 2017 thing. Or was it 27? I think it was 2017 by now. And what's this Bitcoin thing? What's going on? And these guys started Joel Com and Travis Wright, these two dudes started this Bad Crypto podcast. These two computer geek dudes who have done all types of staying on top of technology. They started a podcast saying, what is this? Let's learn about crypto right now, starting here. And their first 10 episodes were literally like crypto for dummies. This is what blockchain is. This is what Bitcoin is. Here's, step by step. And you were learning with them. And I found that podcast pretty early on. My wife found it and like a few months into it. And I started listening, and it was freaking amazing. They were always on top of it was like, the best news, I think, for crypto. You were always hearing the new stuff from different points of views. Anyway, they ended up doing another show called the Nifty Show when NFTs started getting big. And Aggroed was on one of their Nifty shows. And I was watching that, and he was doing his little, show on Splinterlands. And I was like, that's pretty cool, and he said, I'll give you a free spell book. Just come over to Discord and find us, and I'll give you a spell book code so you could try the game out for free. I was like, all right. I think I was one of like two people that did from that episode, if I heard correctly. But just came over to Discord, and it was also very like vague. Oh, just head over to Discord and find me, and I'll hook you up with the code. And I'm just like, oh, interesting. So I think that's when I learned what Discord was and signed up and get over there. And I'm like, all right, here's Splinterlands. I was told to find someone named Aggroed, and Clove 71 was the first person to interact with me. And she's like, oh yeah, just do this and send him a DM and he'll hook you up, So I sent him a DM, and first day there was no reply. I did it again. Second day, he's like, oh, sorry, man, I've been really busy. Here's a spellbook code, get you set up. And he gave me a code, and I started playing the game right there. And everyone in the game, like, one thing that I really liked right out of the gates was the community was freaking awesome. Like in the Discord, everyone was so cool and helpful and friendly. That's when I met all the Team Possible people right out of the gates. Like the amount of help they gave me at the beginning was it's insane. Like Dave McCoy and Simply Mike and BU. They were just like, oh, here, do this. This is how you do this. Here's how you do this. Here's a whole. I remember BU just delegated me a ton of like beta cards. Just like play with these and have fun and stuff. And that really helped just, grow the interest of like, holy shit, this is way more fun when you're not playing in bronze, you play at this level. And just kind of got sucked in, right away from all of that.
Yeah, man, I would love to hear. Clove, I think, has been such a phenomenal kind of welcome for so many people coming into the game. Whether it was through her streams or her tournaments, or just via Discord, reaching out and welcoming people, and I think that really sets the tone early for a lot of folks that are still here today and now continuing to pay it forward. As that's how they were welcomed to the game. So it's I think you're spot on with the way that the community embraces new people. We had there was a big streamer on Twitter that kind of put out a I don't know if you saw that the other day, Jimmy. Ellie, I think is her name.
Oh no, I was thinking about the guy who got booted from Axie. That was a different one.
I don't know if I've seen that. What is this one?
Some huge guy who was paid to I guess he was paid to put out content on YouTube and stuff for Axie. or sorry, not actually Gala Games, and then he got axed. I don't know the whole drama, but he was multi-accounting apparently legally, but then got all of his accounts suspended, shut off. His friends and family that he was trying to help verify, shut off. Seemed pretty sketchy. I don't know enough of the details to really have an opinion on it, but if what he was saying is true, it seemed kind of rug pully and kind of like Gala was throwing a lot of things out there and making promises that they wouldn't keep or change the terms of, regularly.
Ouch.
Yeah,
Well,
stuff like that. But again, I don't know for sure. So speculation.
Yeah, we had I believe her name is Ellie, Ellie, and she kind of put out a video of her playing in I want to say bronze, maybe a week ago, 10 days ago. And all of a sudden it blew up on Twitter. Everybody from the Splinterlands main account to a bunch of content creators were reaching out saying, hey, what's your in-game name? Let's toss you some assets to play with. So it's so cool to see, man. And just to have and maybe on the surface, it looks like because she's a big streamer, she's got a big Twitter following. But the reality is anybody who comes into Discord and says, hey, I'm just getting started, I'm sure more than likely they're going to be flooded with, hey, what's your in-game name? Let's get you set up. Let's, show you the ropes and what this game can really be about and let you have some fun. So I just really appreciate how the community goes about. It's almost like we've kind of taken it upon ourselves to do the job of customer retention early in the client's kind of life cycle, in how we really embrace those new players and welcome them, get them into a guild, get them assets to play with and put them on the right path. So yeah, shout out to Clove, shout out to you for continuing to pay it forward, Jimmy. Yeah, man.
It's true, man. Even what they're doing now, I know like people like Mike is so engaged in the whole community aspect and in managing. I don't know how she has time to manage all of these guilds and just spends so much time doing what she does and helping other people. Dave's the same way. Just the amount of time they spend helping other people within this space is insane. Really says something, when someone puts that much time into it. But we're growing, we're moving forward. It's funny, we're watching that whole block, just being around that Bad Crypto podcast and the early Nifty shows. We kind of watched this whole Web3 game space start from nothing. I remember that Crypto Kitties there was a Bad Crypto podcast where they're like, holy shit, what is this Crypto Kitties thing? The freaking Ethereum's all jammed up and clogged, and it's because of this. And that I remember that moment. I know that I believe Matt was talking about that's kind of what gave them inspiration to start the game and stuff, was that realizing that the NFT thing is a thing and it's huge and that it's gamified. That Crypto Kitties gamified NFTs right out of the gates. Here, you breed this one with this one and you will make a new Crypto Kitty. And just watching the progression from that, we went through that to wax. There was I don't know if you guys were aware of the wax stuff that was going on early on. Just a bunch of, it's hard to quantify. It's there's a lot of shitty games on wax, a lot of like things that aren't really games, where it's just like staking, like the what is that, Alien Worlds, where you just stake and you harvest this stuff. And those were early games, on the blockchain space. And I think it was coming in around the same time as all that stuff was going on, and stumbling across Splinterlands and just seeing even 3 years ago how far ahead they were compared to any other thing that was considered a Web3 or a crypto game at the time. It was just, Splinterlands was way far ahead of everybody else in that regard. And that was then.
So was Splinterlands your kind of entrance into investing into crypto, into NFTs?
Not really. Again, because of the Bad Crypto thing, I started, buying into investing in crypto kind of early. It was around that first 2017 hype, that fall when Bitcoin went to 20 grand. I was buying in at that point, and then it crashed to 4. And the whole point is you don't freak out. You just hold. You hodl your Bitcoin, and then in a couple of years it's worth more than it was at the last high. So But then those bad crypto guys, they did this whole project called Blockchain Heroes. And I think it was one of the first like pack NFT things that was going on. One of the first, where they did this series of digital cards that were based, it was totally a computer dork thing where they had it was all these blockchain heroes, all these people who were big in the real people who were big in the blockchain world, like Vitalik. They had a fictional Satoshi character, John McAfee, people like that, Brock Pierce, people like that. And they just made these cards out of them, and they had different rarities where the more rare they got, the better the artwork and the animation got. And they built this little community out of that. That's where I think I met Vetiv there. I think that's where we both came from. And it was just a lot of fun, and it was really cool. These guys started doing these, selling these packs. They were cheap at the time. It was like, it wasn't $5 packs. It was like $2 or something. And they had this weekly meeting, and you would just go there and crack packs with friends. And it was just a lot of fun. And then these guys started doing, new mechanics where you could blend cards, or if you put 5 together, you'll get this new rarity. And they kept engaging the community, and they did that for a couple of years. And that was it was just a lot of fun, and it made you realize this whole digital collectible thing is just like real collectibles. If someone's into it, you get that bug and you want to collect everything.
For sure. How did you fall in with Team Possible? Was it just through Discord, just talking to people on the Splinterlands Discord and got hooked up with them?
Yeah, pretty much. It was just through that, and I kept playing, and they kept helping. And then it was just inevitable that they're like, hey, I'm like, hey, what, can I join your guild? They're like, of course you could join our guild. So I joined Team Possible Power at one point, stayed there for a while, and then moved up to Champs when a spot opened up.
I'd love to hear, were you interested in stuff like Magic the Gathering, trading card games, collectible stuff prior to Splinterlands? Was this your first experience with the collectible card game?
With the card game, yes. I was not into Magic the Gathering. I'd heard about it, but just never got into it. I was a huge Star Wars freak when I was a kid. I was like 4 when that came out, and it was so collecting Star Wars stuff was huge. My whole life, that was always a thing. I was into baseball cards as a kid, even though I wasn't into baseball. I was into collecting the cards with friends. But yeah, no, I was never into the trading card game thing until Splinterlands. I had a pretty big gap. I was a huge gamer as a kid. Like when Pong came out, my uncle got that. I remember him bringing Pong, from the store into like, I don't know, it was like a 4th of July. It was some family gathering where he went and bought Pong and hooked it up, and we were playing. And then shortly after that was Atari 2600. I was a diehard Atari 2600 fan. Still am. And then that was it. I had friends who got Nintendo, and and things started to ramp up, but I never really, the ColecoVision into Nintendo and stuff. I never really got into that higher level stuff. Apple IIe, I was playing a lot of computer games on the Apple IIe at the time, through high school. But yeah, no, that was it for the collectible stuff. And I collect music gear, of course. As a musician, I have a ridiculous, way too many amps, guitars, stuff like that. Pedals. How about you guys? Were you both card gamers before this?
I played Magic the Gathering a good bit in my middle school years, early high school years, so like late 90s. But a lot of those cards just kind of collected dust over the years. I think I've still got stacks of Magic the Gathering cards somewhere. But game wise, yeah, I had a Nintendo, and my formidable mid 90s. We were actually talking about this last week with like the advent of Street Fighter, and then Nintendo 64, James Bond, and Super Mario Kart, and had an Xbox in uni. I've got a Switch now. I think Nintendo has kind of been my mainstay of fun games. They just do it a little bit differently than the others. It's not quite as serious, I would say, but the degree of fun, the fun factor is very much a priority for the Nintendo stuff. And it was actually my buddy Wasco, who I used to do the People's Guild with, that introduced me to Splinterlands, I guess 18 months ago. And it was kind of so February 2022 is when I came in, and I think Hep, you came in maybe a month or two prior to that, right?
January,
yeah. And it ticked a whole lot of boxes for me. I felt my interest reignited in the trading card game, and it was kind of a match made in heaven. And obviously I really enjoy it today. I just as much, if not more, than I did back then. And I'm not going anywhere anytime soon, man. It's been fun watching it grow, and I'm looking forward to seeing what the future holds for Team Splinterlands.
Yeah, the game itself is just so much freaking fun. That was one thing I would never understand when people would be in like Mav chat, come say the game's not fun. No one's gonna like this game. I'm like, what do you mean? This game is tons of fun. I know dozens and dozens of people who literally just love playing the game itself. So yeah, I think the game itself is brilliant. It's an awesome, knowing how popular Magic the Gathering is, never having been involved in it, but knowing the basics of it, and how incredibly popular it is. This just seems like a no-brainer that scale it down to a 2.5-minute match in a similar yet different way. It's chances are it's going to do well if it gets in front of people.
Yeah, no, I think that's a great point. I played a little bit of Magic, never really did, like, so kind of the same with you. Didn't really get into it. Definitely played a lot of video games, computer games as a kid. I think about the gameplay. I like we just said, I got into the game, January of last year. I think it's great. I still play almost every day. There's days I don't play, and didn't play too much last weekend, things like that, if I'm on vacation or something like that. But yeah, I really enjoy playing it. But I see a lot of people, some, have frustrations with that. The game hasn't really evolved or changed that much. We've added a few new rule sets, but the game just hasn't really changed too much. And I see people, a lot of people are frustrated with that. So, kind of what's your opinion on those people's frustrations, and how do you feel about that, and compared to some of the other, like, Web3 games that you looked at?
I'm not that on top of like current Web3 games. I'm comparing to the space it came from and what was around when I first found Splinterlands.
Mm-hmm.
It was kind of mind-blowing. I don't know. I think for me, the game's changing. I'm still getting used to the new freaking cards, all the soulbound cards and all of the new abilities with that, and the Riftwatchers stuff. I mean, Riftwatchers was a big set. It wasn't like this little Dice was a small mini set. Riftwatchers was a big set, mini set. Throw that in the mix with these new abilities and all these soulbound cards. I'm still getting used to, figuring out how to play. Like I used to, especially modern. You used to be like, something comes up, a rule set came up, and you'd be like, oh, bam.
Yeah.
I'm just going to go life. Boom. Paladin up front, super sneak team. Let me go Silver Shield, Assassin, Sandworm, Feral Kitty, Elf, and you just crush these. And it was, regular thing to do. There was a point when Jodin, you could just throw Jodin and snipe everything, and you would just crush your opponents, And I really like the fact that, and I think in that regard, the game has changed a lot. I always like the fact there was a point where Jodin was so overpowered. Everyone's like, oh, you should nerf Jodin. We got to nerf Jodin. And Matt's answer was always like, no, let's just come up with counters. Which I think is a way better way to deal with things. You get something that might be overpowered for a while, and then all of a sudden it's not, And for me, in that regard, the game is changing constantly. I'm still trying to figure out the best ways to use like Martyr and how to deal with rebirth rule sets and stuff. It's and I'm getting screwed. I can't get that freaking life legendary soulbound card with the taunt and Martyr.
Is it tar?
I can't get it.
Izzyr,
yeah.
Oh my God. Every time I get a shaky chest, I'm like, come on, because it's just been crushing me, especially the last 2 days in modern. I'll just
guilty.
Yes. I don't even have them up to martyr level. It's like not even worth using at this point. It's just like I want it so bad.
I feel your pain, man. I don't have the water legendary that
nice. He's
the mine hunter. Is it mine hunter? What is it? I don't
Yeah,
even know what it's
Mine
called
Hunter.
because I don't have
Kulu.
it. Yeah. Kulu mine hunter. Yeah. I can't get that one. I just can't. I haven't
See,
pulled
I've got
one.
extras. I would gladly trade you if they weren't soulbound now.
I've got it. I only have like I think I have 2 BCX ZR. So yeah, I would happily trade you. I keep getting beat by that card too all the time. The that mine hunter card too. But the ZR too also. I got beat pretty bad the other day with that. Someone put a really good lineup on that, and I was like, yeah, this game's over. So yeah, no, I definitely trade.
Skip.
Skip, and then you win, and you're like, "What happened?" And these, I hope someone's listening. With the quality of life, we need to be able to skip ahead. You know how you could skip back around?
Yes.
Skip ahead.
Yeah.
A skip ahead. 1 round at a time, or B skip ahead to round 21.
The final round. Yeah. Agreed.
Where it starts, where you're sitting there and you're in a stalemate. You're like, all right, I just want to see how this ends up. And I want to sit through 21 rounds to do it.
Yeah, to your point, Jimmy, I love the I think the modern bot ban is going to do great things for the game on a few different levels, and one is I hope it attracts guys like yourself who have been around the game for a long time. Coming back to modern, you're not going to be more than likely. I'm sure there's going to be some bots that kind of slip through the cracks and still manage to play ranked. But for the most part, you were either using an Xbot or Archmage, and they both fully agreed to comply with not allowing their bots to compete in modern. So I'm really hoping that we see a lot of guys like yourself come back into modern and play manually. And yeah, it's modern has been so much fun. I've had more fun in the last 24 hours. I announced on Twitter as soon as that went live. I played a couple matches. I had so much fun. I went on Twitter and said, I'm going to burn my energy to the ground. Well, like an hour later, I posted an update. Energy was at 0, and I was itching for more. I wish energy didn't cost as much as it does, because I would have used the heck out of that system. Yeah, it's real pricey, man.
They should give you like half price energy in modern to play in modern. Like break it up, because if people are playing it manually, like you're not worried about just bot farms now as much, like taking advantage of it. Yeah, let's get a cheap energy for manual players. That's what. Or
for vouchers, or for having X amount of SPS staked or something, or Rooney. Maybe give a little more value to Rooney.
There you go.
Energy discount if you got a Rooney in your account. Just a little.
There's options, man. I would love to see vouchers on the table. I would 100%. I'm just sitting with, I don't even know how many vouchers in my account at this point. Just wait until the price creeps up, and I'm going to sell them for DEC, and play the waiting game again. But yeah, man, I loved running into guys like you. I ran into Stever 82 a couple times yesterday, and I think there were a lot of concerns initially about overall match liquidity with bots being pulled from the table, and what is that going to do to matchmaking times? Are we going to be sitting for 5 minutes waiting for a match to come to fruition for us to play? I haven't run into any of that. I've waited no more than 10-15 seconds per usual, and man, I reached out to probably 50%, 60% of the matches that I played. I immediately reached out to those guys on Discord and, good match. Like
that is what I like seeing, because you used to see that all the time. There'd be a match, and someone would be like, the taunt that he always talks about. We would see that in Discord a lot more. And just from the past 2 days, we're starting to see that again. And I think that's awesome. That's priceless. And that's that human interaction, that's giving each other shit, that's having fun playing other people. One thing we haven't mentioned yet that I do want to mention, and because it affects a lot of things, I have a scholar, Hyde 20 is his name. He's in the Philippines, and he's freaking awesome. He's the other guy who plays FatJimmy. And for a while I was doing all the wild, he was doing the modern, and at the end of the season I'd back off for 2 days, and he'd freaking he'd undo the damage I did. He fucks up the leaderboards and freaking wild. And I would just let him have free reign on modern. But past 2 days I've been in there wrecking our modern leaderboard position. But
So what's your plan with that? Are you going to politely show him the exit door and give him an alternate account?
Awesome. No, man, it's like I'm insanely busy with my AMP stuff. Like I'm a one-man operation. I should have probably 3 or 4 people working for me, just doing with the amount of work that I have to do and that I do. So I don't get to play every single day. There was a time I was, but what's really cool with Hyde is besides being I think one of the best players out there, he's so nice as a person. He's just a really good person and super nice. And our schedules just lined up perfectly. He's a student. He's got a large family, that he takes care of, part of his family. And there's days he'll be like, oh, I got exams coming, I'm not playing for 3 days. I'm like, great, I have 3 days where I can actually do all the grinding and stuff. And it's just worked out seamlessly where like the days I'm super busy, I'll log in and he did our matches, or if it just balanced out where I could play. He doesn't play constantly, I don't play constantly, but between the two of us, it seems pretty, the energy level is at its maximum consumption. We do that 24 battles a day easily.
Nice. Where did you find him? How did you get hooked up with him as your scholar?
He's been around for a while.
Is he a dead connection? Another dead connection, Jimmy?
No, I don't think so. He's been around for a while, man. He's had Team Possible connections for a long time too. And he approached me once to play Finarfin, which is my silver deck. It's basically a maxed silver level wild deck. It's got almost everything in there. Finarfin is a Tolkien name.
Yeah,
right on. So he sent me a DM super polite one day saying, hey, I heard you were looking for scholars. I'm a silver level player. Start asking if he could play. I'm like, yeah, Finarfin's the deck. Go at it, and he was really freaking good. So at one point I'm like, hey, you want to start playing some FatJimmy? You want to do some of these tournaments that I don't always do. And we kind of moved him up and saw that he was really freaking good, and he really liked playing silver. He was like, I really dig silver. It's like it's my jam. And I kind of pushed him into the higher space with the FatJimmy. I'm like, dude, you're way better than that. Start rocking this shit. Get in here.
That's beautiful, man. Yeah, you kind of continue the theme of the OGs, and like we were talking about earlier, the community just paying it forward and enabling these guys. With the foundation, we had Yaba, we had Aggie on, and they both talked about, and we hear it on town halls, peace, prosperity, and freedom, and giving these lesser developed countries and the folks, the citizens of these countries, the chance to kind of break out of the mold that life has unfortunately placed them in. And Splinterlands offering that opportunity, and guys like you, guys like Azure Khan, guys like Dave McCoy, giving these scholars a chance to do that is such a great thing, man. I love that you continue to do that. And we were talking. I was on Splinterlands TV the other day, and we were talking about the hypothetical Splinterfest Philippines. Whether that comes to fruition or not, man, I'll be the. Yeah, I was just going to ask you. You got to meet up with Hyde and share a couple of brewskis.
Absolutely, man. I would go there in a second. My wife also loves the idea of Splinterlands in different places around the world. Sorry, Splinterfest being the perfect excuse to travel to different places in the world. And if Splinterfest is in the Philippines one weekend, we'll go for 2 or 3 weeks. And check all that out. I would love to see that happen. Love to. But
that's awesome.
And I just I help out 1 or 2 people, man. Freaking Azure Khan and Dave, they're doing the work over there. They're Level Up Life. Those guys are really, really pushing it out there and helping a lot of people. And it's just great to see it even on the small level. Like I've become good friends with Hyde. You know, I consider us to be friends. We talk about other shit besides Splinter. We talk about our families or things that are going on. And he might make it to California. I think he's graduating college soon. And I think if I remember correctly, his aunt said if he passes with a certain GPA, she'll pay for a trip to California where she is. She's out here, his aunt.
So is Fat Jimmy in the business of hiring an apprentice? Is that where you're going with this?
I need an apprentice. I just can't trust anyone to build my amps, man. I've tried. Yeah, it's quality control. I think I'd rather just put out the highest quality product at a slower pace than sell out or have people working for me who can't meet my standards. It's almost a stalemate, but whatever.
Craftsmanship is important these days.
It is,
especially. You mentioned your wife. Does she play at all, or is she just kind of on board with the hobby?
We got her an account. This was a while ago during the I don't know what the era might be called, the bronze bot hell era, where she would battle all day.
Is that an error? I thought that was just forever and continuously ongoing.
I think it's done now that they're out of modern, right? Bronze is actually a thing. But no, she was into it, man. She got into it. She was enjoying it. I'd got her set up. I'd be working, and she'd come home from work, and an hour later, I'd hear her upstairs screaming at her phone, okay, retaliate or whatever. He's like, no, you got to be kidding me. So she was
your bad RNG luck transferred to her, is what you're telling me?
Transferred to her, but I think it was just bad time. It was a terrible time to try to onboard new players because she, and like she said, I spent all this time. I do this stuff, and I get one chest with a potion in it. Like, come on, and
what a rip! Yeah,
it was discouraging, and it actually. She was into it, she was involved, and just got discouraged by just the bad timing of coming in around, in those circumstances.
Have you gotten her back on the hype train with obviously we've had a huge revamp to the reward system. We've had a huge revamp with no bots in modern. It's a different world that she'd be coming into these days. That RNG might still be there for her, but other things have changed.
It would be, but no, she's moved on. She's focusing way more on the art and less on the playing. She doesn't mind that I play and understands the potential and has seen, how things have progressed here, but she's done playing, unfortunately. I don't know, maybe one day I'll be able to get her, rope her in again, but I think
maybe you can get her a spot on the creative team in Splinterlands. I mean, she's got some pretty awesome, from what I can see behind you there, some pretty awesome artwork. I think it would could fit in well with the game. Have you had that conversation with Nate to say, hey, my wife she can do some freelance work for you?
Back to actually during the boom, like, when the hiring boom 2 years ago, when they were hiring all these artists, we did send some sketches and stuff over. But he was looking more like, I think he's just looking for higher level professionals, like she's not a computer graphics person. She's, physical art and stuff like that. So we thought, oh, maybe, if she designs monsters or whatever, and, concept art type of stuff. But they're still looking for, I think, more for, some of the stuff now, some of the cards are coming out. They're starting to rival like Disney and Marvel, with the artwork, I think. And I think that's kind of what they were always going for. Not looking like Disney or looking like Marvel, but I'm talking that quality.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like, I think one of the amazing things about the Splinterlands and the creative team and what Nate is doing is the unique two-dimensional look, gaming, Web3 gaming, all the excitement coming from graphics being amazing. I don't think that's necessary. I think they're totally right on with saying we want a two-dimensional animated thing that has a very unique and recognizable look. And that's what they've got. You look at a background that he drops as a screensaver, that's Splinterlands, that background you got right now. I look at that, and if I had never seen that before, I'm like, that's obviously Splinterlands artwork. It's this really cool mesh of like, cartoon style animation, but realism, and like Roger Dean surrealism. And I think it's a really winning visual combination, or that's not the right word, but visual setting, that they're creating.
Yeah.
Or they have created at this point.
Yeah, it's like a very unique sort of aesthetic that they've got rolling there. That's awesome.
It's cool as hell. It's like all those backgrounds that they throw at you. They're like, it's a really, really freaking cool vibe that all have. And it's unique and it has a look. And I guess I didn't mention before, I used to play D&D when I was a kid, and like the 80s and stuff, late 70s when it came out, 80s. Little action in college. So the fantasy element of Splinterlands is definitely something that I liked right from the get-go.
Nice. Yeah, just so the listeners know, I've got my a screen grab of the occupied canyon land that I have up as the background. So that's what we're kind of looking at. Definitely, yeah. The occupied monsters I think are super cool. I really like them.
Oh yeah. I would love to see those actually be some cards in some upcoming sets.
Yeah,
why not?
Yeah, man. Yeah, thinking about the artwork and kind of looking back, I came in. Chaos Legion was already in full force. It was a couple million packs deep and into the sale by the time I arrived. And as I was like looking back at cards. The alpha beta artwork, I really like the alpha card aesthetic. The artwork I think leaves a little bit to be desired, but it's really nostalgic and it's very clean and crisp. I felt like things kind of took a step back with beta, and then the next few sets, Untamed and Dice, was leaps and bounds beyond beta. Chaos Legion I think took it a step further, but then you look at the artwork that's tied to Riftwatchers and to Soulbound cards. Holy man, it is incredible. The stuff that Nate and Team Creative, shout out to those guys, have been putting on the table is just to your point, Jimmy. It's AAA studio quality stuff. It's
rivals Disney and Marvel in their own way. It really does. Now, that was another thing I liked about the old alpha cards. That stuff looks like, if you open the old like 70s D&D monster manuals, that Gary Gygax stuff, that's what the alpha cards look like. The freaking borders like came from there. The drawing of the creatures and the monsters kind of came from that type of vibe. 100%. There was that connection. Oh, let's see here. Here's my physical.
The Lord of Darkness. Yeah. Nice.
That was one of Yabamat's shuffling cards.
Oh, cool. Was that a Splinterfest acquisition?
That was. Totally.
Oh, it's got the Steam Monsters logo on the back. Nice.
But just there's the aesthetic of that. It's so freaking cool. I like the old artwork. But they've come a long way, and I'm curious to see how this Rebellion set works, because I've always liked the card element of the artwork. It looks like a card. It's got this border that's pretty cool. It's got these icons that are easily recognizable and easy to see. I remember, so I'm very curious to see how far Rebellion changes things in that regard. They were going to like, when they were showing it at Splinterfest, there was a borderless card. There was like no border, and the magic and melee and ranged icons were different, and one almost might argue, hard to recognize, not intuitive the way they are now. So I know they've taken feedback on that, but I'm very curious to see the direction that Rebellion is headed in creatively, beyond the character art. Obviously where the character artwork is progressing exponentially, like you were saying, AAA studio quality stuff, all of this. But I'm just curious as to the aesthetic of the cards moving forward, what those are going to be like.
Yeah, I loved I forget what the card was, but it was definitely a Rebellion card. It was one that I didn't recognize, but the card, the frame was very, very different from what we're accustomed to. It would definitely take some getting used to, but I think I'm really excited for, I think the pro or anti-bot, no bot modern is going to satiate a lot of the hunger for folks to have new stuff in the game. I think for a little while, in my mind, it really brings back the element of fun. It's really strategy based. I think it was the right call to go with modern. That's where new players go. Collections are much more comparable. The competition is going to be much stiffer as a result of that. So I think modern was a home run. That said, I cannot wait until the new gameplay stuff comes in later in the year. Aggie has kind of touched on a few times throughout past town halls and on our episode with Aggie a couple of months ago now. Gameplay mechanic stuff is going to be in the pipeline for Q4, Q1, and that's right around the bend. So what's going to be coming with that, and Battles 2.0, and how is the visual appeal of Battles going to change? And I would imagine that we get a lot of that stuff prior to Rebellion. So it's going to be really interesting to watch how that stuff is all kind of sewn together over the next 6, 7, 8, 9 months. We're sitting at a good time, man. I'm feeling really positive, really hopeful, and it's fun.
Yeah, I agree with you 100% on all of that. The modern was a great place to start with no bots. I'm looking forward to tournaments and brawls next. I think that would be the next logical step. If people should be competing for prizes in that regard, if we want to be a true esport type of an event, thing. I think tournaments and brawls should be humanized. I don't think bots should be competing for rewards in that level. I'm fine with the whole. I kind of like the fact that Wild can have bots and you can do the thing there. And I just don't think it works for tournaments and brawls. It takes to, especially looking at even though it's only been 2 days, just the tremendous amount of positive response from the community for the botless modern format. Imagine brawls and tournaments being like that again, where, instead of the same 5 bots winning the top, 5 or 6 places in most high paying tournaments, you get that out of there and get humans winning again.
Yeah, that would be awesome. That would be great. I wanted to ask, what about your the scholar that you have, the soulbound reward cards? Like, how did that change the sort of economics of your agreement, or if any at all? Because before, something you could you get a bunch of rewards cards, you could maybe split them up, do whatever, sell. He could sell them if you wanted to. But with that not being on the table, do you have to kind of go back to the drawing board, or what's the type of agreement? If you don't want to get into specifics, or just, I'm kind of curious as to how that kind of changed stuff with people who have scholars running on their accounts.
Gotcha. Yeah, it's more, we do a deal with like SPS, a certain percentage of SPS. You get this much, I get this percentage, you get this percentage of everything. Even if I'm in there playing and I don't care, I still split up our rewards. I'm not like, oh, I made 10 SPS on this match, so that's my 10 SP. I don't do it like that. So he gets a percentage, and I'll do it a couple times a season. If I'm like, oh, I got 10,000 SPS, I gotta collect and stake. I'll look at all the chests and the rewards and stuff. Modern form, ranked, modern season. Daily chests, and split that up to the proportion. The percentage. Send that over to him. Keep the rest. In tournaments is a dead 50-50. Like if he plays a tournament and with my deck, we just split it, right down the middle, right there. But the rank play is just an SPX. Soulbound cards can't really do anything with that.
Especially when he cracks open that chest with the gold foil Izzyar.
We're waiting for that, man. I did get a triple Kulu gold foil once, though.
Nice.
It was an end of season treat one season. That was very nice.
Sweet.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting to see how the market responds, how the community responds once those things are unlockable. I have a feeling that those cards are definitely going to be some of the rarer cards. I have no plans of unlocking what I pulled unless it's significant amount of surplus, and even then it might be unlocking just to send to my silver account, for example.
Right.
I wonder how many of these cards are actually going to hit the free market and be available for purchase, and what is the floor on these things going to look like?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't think we'll know until we see it happen. What's it going to cost to unlock these things? Is it going to cost twice the burn value like the land thing? Is it going
That was brutal. That was brutal.
Brutal. And I've got an extra level 4 legendary gold foil fire thing that would be great on a plat, but it's going to cost me 100,000 DEC just to unlock that thing to use on land. Is that worth it?
Maybe that's the floor, right? Because it's my understanding is that you have to pay that what is it, 2.5x the burn value just to play it on land, and then there's an additional fee that'll be still required to unlock it for the market, right?
That's undetermined. It could be just regular burn value unlocks it for the market. I don't think that'll be the case, but it could be. Burn value. If it's up to what you paid already, so let's say it costs 2 times burn value to unlock it for the market, and you already did that for land, that counts. You already unlocked your card.
Got you. Okay, so it not necessarily a separate fee, but there will be independent fees for the two.
Right. Like if you want to, I think once it comes time to unline, this is just speculation, because now you're basically just locking the DEC to the card. I don't know if you're burning it or locking it in like a burn value thing, but you're just doing it for land right now. I suspect that once it's unlockable completely, that'll be for everything. You won't even think about unlocking it just for land like that.
Right.
I'm just guessing. I don't know. But.
Well, they did, and we were talking about this yesterday, Jimmy, after we did a couple of challenges. The incredible job that Matt and co did to bring balance to the whole game. I feel like Chaos Legion was a good set. With the addition of Riftwatchers, the Chaos Legion full set became a fantastic set. And now with Soulbound cards, I think if you just have those 3 eras of cards in your collection, like, you can compete with anybody. There's a little bit of something to counter any of the big boys and wilds, to counter any of those, with the exception of Kitty. Kitty is the only counter to Kitty. You might hear some say. But the intrinsic value of keeping those cards in your collection, and the way that they've, we haven't really seen, at least I haven't come across, the fully fleshed out version of what the new meta according to these Soulbound cards is going to look like. But I feel like they did such a good job of making these cards so valuable from a gameplay perspective that who's going to want to unlock them and sell them? Like they're always going to be relevant, right?
Right. Well, I guess if you're earning so many that you have the extras to get rid of, but right now I'm still struggling. I do have some extras. I have some maxed with some surplus, and there's some I'm not even close to maxing. The RNG has just been, just kind of been all over the place with that. But and you're totally right. One of the things, Matt balancing the game he's a genius at that. I'm completely convinced Matt is a freaking genius with game design and the way he balances things out, and the way things change as a result. Jodin was overpowered, and then Lear came out, and he's doing all the return fire on all that blast damage, would just come right back at you. And that kind of knocked Jodin down a little, but then now with some of these other cards, Lear, I think he was one of the least appreciated of the untamed legendary summoners. And now, just with the meta now and the rule sets you're seeing now, I'm seeing Lear a lot more. Him with the blind, with the 2 armor, with the return fire, he's a freaking monster, especially in like the ranged only and in some of the melee only stuff. His value has shifted and increased considerably. Same with like Almo. There was a certain thing that happened in the meta. I forget what exactly. I don't know if it was a new rule set or something happened where all of a sudden Almo was like, just this powerhouse.
I think it was Lily.
Might have been that. I was part of it. I was thinking this might be before that, but Lily's man. That's another one. Everyone was complaining. Like I still didn't get people were complaining about like, dude.
It's because it's because it wasn't Kitty, right? Everybody was hoping for like that type of overpowered. Yeah,
it kind of is. I mean, it's like forcing a taunt. You know, when you have a back line that's just all opportunity or sneaked and just not drawn to a taunt, it just decimates your opponent when they can't target those cards. You know, and Lily forces that. You're seeing Lily with a lot higher win rate these days.
I'm using it a lot more all the time. Yeah, I mean, when you just something when your opponent, especially when you see an opportunity rule set, right? Like I want to play Lily, right? I want to force that opponent into a situation that they're not, expecting to be in, or at least I now know the situation they're going to be in for certain, right? And then I can build my deck around that. And that's just, I think there's a lot of value in that in the game.
And then somebody throws a Yasik at you. Yes.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and it's game over. You bastard.
Yes. Bastard. You bastard. God damn it. We need more Arnold. No one says bastard like Arnold Schwarzenegger. I'm sorry. Bastard. He was great. Sorry.
Great, man. So let's talk Praetoria, Jimmy. What's your stake in the continent that is coming, that is Praetoria, and how excited are you for it, and are you ready for it?
Very excited. Not even close to ready. I don't think we could have gotten ready with how much we are actually going to need. Fortunately, I'm not one of the people who was hoarding summoners for years just for land. But let's see. I forget, because I manage a couple accounts for like friends and family as well, just kind of keep things rolling. I think personally I have either 250 or 280 plots. I got 2 tracts at the beginning. Here's a great little story as to how like brutally overfair Team Possible can be at times. Okay, so there's the first land sale. It was a raffle right there. I don't remember what it was for, a couple regions or whatever. And in order to have the opportunity to buy at I think it was $7.50, 7,500 DEC a plot. And DEC was at like 0.0004 cents at the time too. I think it was pretty low. So you're getting plots for like $4, roughly.
Way to rub it in, Jimmy. Jeez Louise. Back in my day.
So much more to keep it going. I don't know if it's worth it. We'll find out. But so there's this first raffle, right, where you had to enter, guilds were entering, and it was raffling off regions or tracks or whatever. And Team Possible had 3 groups in that raffle. I think it was for full regions is how it went, where if you could buy a region if you won this raffle, right? And so Team Possible had Group 1, Group 2, and Group 3, which they filled in order. The first 1,000 plots went to Group 1, and then Group 2 and Group 3. The raffle went down, and for Team Possible, Group 2 and Group 3 came up. So all the first guys who bought in Group 1 didn't even get to buy at that price tier. I'm like, what are you talking about? I'm like, that should just be, you were the first people to buy in. So it's like the first region that came up as a winner should have gone to Group 1, second to Group 2. And they're like, nope, we're fair. This was Group 1's lottery ticket. This was Group 2's lottery ticket. This was Group 3. Most people just would have put it in sequential order for first come, first serve, push and shove. But no, those guys were super overly fair about everything. It was kind of cool. Anyway,
well, it's in the name, Team Possible. It's possible. It's not. So where in Praetoria are you sitting, man? Where's your track set?
So I bought 2 tracks back then, 2.5, I think, over time. So Team Possible bought regions 20, I think 24 through 30 in the Broken Lands. And we have that little clump. We're right next to Mount Praetoria in the middle, where the Broken Lands comes in and basically touches Mount Praetoria. We are those 6 regions. If you guys were following the land sale, that was the night everything went like wildfire. Like I don't know, people liked the Broken Lands, I think, because it was green and it looked healthy on the map. I think that was the main part of it. But Gank bought region 23, which was right in front of ours. And then we bought 24 through 30. And then like Cryptomancer brought like 30 through 32. And then Matt Clark and Roaring 20 guys bought another couple regions down there. But it was this whole section just sold in like a matter of minutes one night.
Yeah, I feel like we were waiting to kind of get like because we had talked about, doing our land surveys together, and it was just not moving. And then all of a sudden it was like we woke up the next day and it's like, oh, okay, now there's we're like 40 regions or tracks or whatever past what we kind of were aiming for, because it all happened so quickly.
It happened. So we were up, we were waiting, we're like, it's coming. It was all like late night. And we were just on it and watched it all happen. And then we were seeing like boom, 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 everything went. And we're just like, fingers crossed, man. Did Dave do it? And Dave McCoy pulled it off. He snagged the 6 regions together.
Wow. Nice.
Yeah.
So did you are you a keep owner, castle owner?
Yes, with 2 tracks, I have 2 keeps. I did not get lucky enough to have a castle, unfortunately. And yeah.
Hey, heavy is the head that wears the crown. There, Jimmy. Were you prepared for that?
Not even close. Not even close. But yeah, so I mean, we'll see how this all plays out. There's a lot of resources needed just to keep land going. The amount of DEC and grain coming up and all that stuff that you're going to need, and cards. For me, it's going to be a slow buildup. See, that's the only way I could possibly do it. Well, I've got a lot of cards, but nowhere near enough DEC, and I do have a DEC spending problem, man. When I see cheap cards, and cards are freaking cheap now.
That's a big problem. Yeah, I've had too. It's like, well, this card price looks too good. I really want that card. I'm gonna get it.
Yeah. I've been hitting some untamed gold foils. That show up. But it's not that crazy, like a freaking lone boatman. Vital card, especially we're starting to get into some of the wealthy, gambit matches, tournaments and stuff, the gold foil tournaments. And certain cards like that are just vital. I've got a gold foil Dr. Blight. That's been super handy. Lone boatman was the tide turner, though, I think. I joke with my scholar a lot too, because he does most of the tournaments lately. And once we got Lone Boatman, it was like all the tides turned. That was like the magic card that just freaking went from here to here.
Interesting. Is it the shatter? Is it the repair? Is it the full package?
Shatter and repair. Yeah. When you're facing like a shield bearer or something, that shatter. Oh, a lot of these cards, Aggroed. There's a lot of these armor heavy tanks that just shatter just decimates them. And then shatter and repair on top of that. That's almost OP.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that. I think we've talked about it a couple times. The community initially on the release of Immortalis, like who cares about shatter? Who gives a shit about shatter? It's like what a worthless ability. No way, man. I think Immortalis is, I'll play him in like a melee only, for example, expecting lots of monsters in the opponent's lineup to be shielded up. Well, farewell to your shield.
Right.
And especially in something like a Divine Shields matchup or Holy Protection matchup, because the shatter just looks past it. Yeah.
Takes the freaking first shot. Yeah.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff.
Well, it goes to what you were saying about Matt's balancing of the game. I feel like the game, while the game play hasn't changed, the gameplay has changed with, every time there's all these new cards and abilities, it shakes things up big time. Big time. But yeah, no, I'm very much looking forward to the different modes. We were talking about that a few minutes ago that will be coming.
Man, I am super excited for the massive creative opportunity that comes with land. I feel like there is so much that they can do. Hardpoint, and I think that quickly became the People's Guild's most famous episode for sure. Was Hardpoint coming on and and talking land surfing and guys like you got to be frothing at the mouth for land surfing to come to fruition. I feel like that's such a beautiful solution. It's elegant, it's simple, and it gives
opportunity.
Exactly. It gives a potential entry point for anybody and everybody in the game, whether you own land or not. You can participate. So are you of the same mindset that land surfing is 100% what you surfs up, bro? Is that you?
Very happy that you don't have to deal with a rental market or any of this stuff. That if someone just wants to, sees a plot and wants to start producing on it, awesome. Go for it. Because I don't have enough to do 250, 280 plots right now. I'm just going to start with going heavy on some of the big ones, probably turning some of the non-magical, non-occupied legendaries into like grain producers, seeing what it takes just to generate enough grain to keep myself sustained, and then just start building those other the high-end plots like the legendary magical or occupied or epic magical, epic occupied, etc. Down the any non-common, non-normal plot basically will be worked in order. I do plan to do a lot of research for the Secret of Praetoria. I believe Matt when he's saying it's going to be well worth it. I'm going to take his word on that. We'll find out if that's true. Rooney is supposed to be the best thing ever for land, and we got nerfed already.
TBD. I saw some stuff going around on Twitter yesterday, and I've got. Let me preface this by saying I've got full conviction of what the team is doing. I really like the direction of the game and kind of the economy, and I feel like we're moving in the right direction. But I felt like the very casual, oh, by the way, during a town square saying Rooney's not going to make land 1.5. Just I was, what the. Come on, guys. Where's the delivery? Where's the bedside manner on that one? That's
that team is not known for their bedside manner. Let's face it. I mean, they're known for their bedside manner being awful. So
we're just gonna have to take off your foot there. Sorry.
Oh, by the way, as you're waking up, But I put out the idea that why doesn't the team? Because my understanding is the issue with Rooney is that it lives on the ETH blockchain, and we're delegating between ETH and Hive. So my suggestion was, why don't we airdrop to Rooney holders a stand-in Rooney card that's on the Hive blockchain? And Nate came back and said he's still feeling optimistic. Rooney is a high priority to make it into 1.5, and it's not confirmed yet. So, I think a lot of people, surprise, Splinterlands threw a shit fit as a result of this news, but it's not confirmed. So TBD. It could still make it into the 1.5 release.
Nice. Fingers are crossed there. I've got I think like 20 Rooney or something like that.
Wow, that's a good amount.
Damn. Nicely done. Did you get that all whitelist fee?
No, I bought no, because my RNG sucks. So I got pissed off pretty quick when I was trying to mint my own, and they were all just crappy, boring Rooney. So while the floor was going down, I was scooping up. When you were getting Rooney for like the 0.2 ETH or something, I was like, all right, that's cool. We'll do a couple.
Yeah.
Just sitting on some ETH, I'd bought when it was $100 at one point. I remember.
Yeah, let's say. Yeah. If you had ETH from 2018, 2019, then that's probably not too much of a lift for you, huh?
Yeah. So I said, well, hopefully this will pay off. I'm spending a lot of my ETH that would be a retirement fund one day, but let's put it to work, and hopefully I could turn 5 ETH into way more than 5 ETH down the road. I would love to turn around and sell like 2 or 3 Rooney and make that all up one day. That would be amazing.
Well, put me on speed dial, bro. Let me know.
When it hits 1 ETH, I might. Who knows, man? 1 or 2 ETH, I'll get rid of a couple.
Yeah, I
How
hear
many?
that.
I'm
That's.
curious to
Oh, go
know.
ahead.
Sorry, yeah, I'm curious to know how many of your, or percentage wise of your plots do you think you'll be able to work fully when Lamb 1.5 gets out, assuming, let's give ourselves a date here and say, assuming that it comes out in a month or two, by, end of September or so.
Ooh, it's not a very high number. Percentage wise, let's see. Easy 10%, I would say I can get working.
Yeah.
And I'm talking like optimized too, like throwing some. I'm still waiting to see how the rental market reacts to land.
Mm.
Because I mean, there's so many moving parts here. Is my beta Lord of Darkness going to all of a sudden rent for way more than it is now because there's none around? Same. I made a kind of a mistake. Well, I don't know if it was a mistake. So let's go back to new in Splinterlands. J6969 thing starts happening. All right. So like all of a sudden, all these I was buying cards. Oh, that was another thing that happened too. Right when I first got in there and Aggie hooked everything up, I don't know, a month or so in or a couple weeks in, all of a sudden I got that collector's itch and I started buying cards. I was like, holy shit, silver's way more fun than bronze. Whoa, gold is way more fun than silver. Whoa, max level, that's how you got to do it. So one day I just bought like a shitload of cards, right? It was a couple grand. It was quite a stretch at the time. And I got a DM from Aggie like that day. Aggroed sends a message. He's like, "Hey man, thanks for your purchase today. That's awesome. Let me know if I could help in any way, whatever." But I thought that was really cool that one of the founders noticed someone bought a couple grand worth of cards, and actually took the time to reach out and say hey and to say thank you. That was kind of huge. But so I just started buying cards like crazy too, because I was looking at them like, okay, let me buy into silver. Oh, beta's cheaper than alpha. I'll just get that. And all right, I got a silver deck. And then J69 starts dumping cards. I'm like, oh shit, it's actually cheaper to buy a full gold version of this card than to buy enough to max up from silver. You know what I mean? Instead of buying enough to combine, it was cheaper to buy like a level 3 Plato or something like that. So I started buying gold level cards. Then, a week or two later, I'm just like, I have to go to Champ. This is ridiculous. And cards were getting cheaper, so it was again cheaper to buy a Champ version already combined than to buy what I needed to level up. So I ended up, fortunately, with a couple levels of cards in there. I also made the mistake of buying betas first, and then I realized, ooh, alphas have tournament. This was the main trigger for me, was there are alpha only tournaments that I could enter. And I only have beta cards. Damn it, I'm buying everything alpha. And it was only like, I don't know, like 30% more. So like if a maxed Dark Enchantress or something was $20 in alpha or in beta, it was $30 in alpha. So it really wasn't that much more. And then during this J69 sale, which again, people in Discord weren't freaking about. I was new on the scene and people were like, oh my God, everything's on sale. I'm like, this is great. I'm just going to start scooping shit up. This is fantastic. So I ended up, through all these mistakes, buying more. I told myself, oh, I'll sell all my betas. I'm just going to buy alphas so I could play these alpha tournaments. But I never sold the betas.
Famous last words, Jimmy.
Yeah, I convinced myself. Yeah, I'll sell that. It's like that meme. You ever see that meme it was the guy from Goodfellas? He's just cracking up, and they're like, "Yeah." So I told my wife, I bought a guitar, and she said, "Are you going to sell the other one?" And then it's just the meme of him just cracking up hysterically. But
Ray Liotta, R.I.P.
Yes, exactly. That's it.
Was there no did you not have any thoughts of selling? Because then, shortly after that, prices, he had that bull run and prices really spiked.
Yeah.
You said you had thought, oh, I'd sell some of those beta cards. So, why'd you hold, what made you hold on to them?
renting. You could rent. I knew land was coming. It just seemed like there was too much utility for cards to sell. And I still think we're going to see higher numbers than we did. I still think this project is basically just getting past toddler stage. We have spent absolutely zero effort in the past 2 years trying to get new players on. That has been detrimental, I think. I heard Aggroed's interview on here, and I do think he has a very valid concept of onboarding new players, where you try to do it en masse by reaching whole new demographics that will appreciate your product at one shot. I think that can totally work. I think he's got something there, but I also think it's detrimental to not constantly be onboarding. Like what was that? Alex Baldwin, always be closing.
Always be closing, yeah.
Closing. It's like always be onboarding. No matter what, no matter the condition, you should always be at least putting some effort into onboarding new players. And just thinking of the future and how small the Splinterlands community actually is right now in relation to successful games, the amount of growth that's coming is just, or that is possible, it's mind-blowing. It's really exponential. I really think this game can be one of the biggest in the world. Part of it is the opportunity, like we were talking about earlier, seeing in real time how someone in a country like the Philippines can benefit from playing a Splinterlands deck. It's insane. Like the possibilities for this game to have far-reaching and long-lasting effects to change people's condition, their literally day-to-day life, as just way too powerful to write off.
Yeah, that's such a powerful perspective, man. We had Mango Mayhem on and Level Up Life a good few months ago at this point, and the idea wasn't like when Lambo. The idea was when 1 kilogram of rice for you to take home and put food on the table for your family. So that shift in perspective to something that's real and tangible and influential in your daily life is absolutely massive, and it hits home. It's realistic, it's practical, and it's achievable in a practical time frame. So yeah, and I'm glad that you mentioned that you feel like Splinterlands as a company, not just the game, but as a company, we're still wearing diapers, right? We're just getting going.
Yeah. Toddlers. We're still at the very beginning, and just seeing so many things about the game. Everyone could throw salt at all this stuff, but going back, something that got me hooked was there were weekly AMAs. Every single freaking week before they were on YouTube and stuff. They were just, you'd go into the Discord channel and listen to it. This stuff wasn't being recorded, but it was the same thing. It was Matt and Aggie getting on there once a week and just talking about what's happening, and people could ask anything they want. It was I didn't know any other project that was like that, that transparent and that involved. There's no way you can't coherently speak through things like that and make shit up week after week after week. You're going to trip up. You know what I mean? If you're talking that much about a topic and it's consistent, that's your subconscious coming out. That's how you think. That's how you believe about the project, and it was consistent. Those guys got on there every freaking week and were sharing this vision and sharing where they thought it was going and sharing what they were doing. And it just seemed to have so much already have momentum, but have so much potential, to really, really stir things up.
So as someone who's been around since then, how do you feel about the pace of how things have moved and the pace of how they've sort of maybe reached the potential where what they've talked about?
Too slow. No, I'm kidding, sort of. So like I mean, some things like this whole tech modernization thing, the more I hear about it, I talk to some team members and stuff, and DMs. I think people tell me things every once in a while, just not like secrets or stuff, but you meant something comes up in Mav chat, and I might get a DM from Weirdbeard or someone else saying, "Oh, hey, you mentioned this. We're actually working on that. It's coming." Or I think they're doing a lot right now behind the scenes. I think this whole tech modernization is way more of an undertaking than most people realize. The way it understands now, like, I thought this always on in-game notification system should be a very easy thing. I always picture just this little number that comes up. If you have one brawl that you have to participate in, a number pops up and tells you next to the icon on the home screen. But it turns out that there are apparently like 2 different versions of the website, and half of the website is on the old version and half is on the new version. And in order for everything to be consistent, it has to be reading both formats right now. That's why we can't have something like the always on in-game notification system just quite yet, until everything is matched up and on the same functionality.
Have you used Baron's Toolbox at all? I know we had
I
him on.
love Baron's Toolbox.
Yeah,
huge shout out.
I mean, we had him on, and then we talked about having, something like that, and then he like in a week he put that in,
and then he's like, "Oh, what's Agnes?" He asked me, "What's Agnes?" I'm just like, "Oh, don't give me that."
Open up the can of worms there, Axler. Jeez.
Now, he's been on stuff too, because like I'm on a little 13-inch Mac. That's all I got. That's what I do. And every few years I upgrade. So, him and a lot of coders, they have these giant monitors that everything's on, and there's tons of room. And I'll tell them, I'll be like, "Dude, I can't see shit. It's all cramped up here." Everything. And I'm like, "Okay, fixes it like 15 minutes later. There's an update," and he's or a day later if he has to wait for Google. But he's again, it's more part of that whole community thing. Here's someone who's making this incredible product, this incredibly helpful product, and he's interacting in response, to feedback.
Oh man, yeah, I couldn't agree more. Axler, if you listen to this, shout out to you, man. And we definitely heap praise upon you during the episode, but here we are again, coming back to Baron's Toolbox, and man, I feel like it should come in box as part of the new player experience. Half of, we had Darkest Night on a little while ago, and he was talking about he had no idea how to level up cards, or he had no idea that, what merits did. And with Baron's Toolbox, you get all that stuff across the top, and you're just going to go through, click icons, and see where it takes you. Whereas on the traditional website, man, you can spend months on there and not find stuff until somebody points it out to you. But yeah, the Baron's Toolbox experience is far superior, and it feels like an easy no-brainer to include that. And I hope I would love to see Axler's product take off, man. I think it's such a great addition to the game, to the experience.
Yeah, I don't know if he wants to, but I would love to see him taken on. That's how a lot of things work in the music industry. Someone shows enough conviction and devotion to something, and they end up getting jobs.
Are you speaking from personal experience there, Jimmy?
Absolutely, man. I've seen that happen. You hang out enough. That's what happened with all the old Dead crew. They just they were helping the band. From the early days. A lot of those guys have been around. A lot of those road crews been around forever, and they were just helping the band when it was fun. And then eventually they started getting paychecks, and that's a lot of times how new people got onboarded, was they were just hanging out enough. And if you weren't in the way and you were helpful and you knew what you were doing, you might find yourself getting paid.
Or you just bring better weed than you can find anywhere else.
Yeah, or LSD back then. I was part of it.
So do you know Kid Charlemagne from the infamous Steely Dan song?
I do. I don't know the person, but I know who you're talking. I know the whole Steely Dan.
Yeah.
But dude, it's rumored that Owsley Bear from the Grateful Dead thing, he's known as one of the greatest LSD chemists of all time. It's rumored that he used to bury glass jars full of LSD up at Olompali State Park, which is right down the road from me.
Oh,
So
wow.
like he used to bury these, for safekeeping at the roots of, at the base of a tree. And it's rumored they're probably still up there. I don't know what
Wow.
that's a tangent, but
Have you
Very welcome.
yeah, have you been training your dog to sniff out glass? gonna go hunting.
I think it'd be more a matter of getting radar or some type of equipment that's scanning equipment where you could be like,
Does isn't that out Azarkron? Doesn't he do like that sort of like ground
Geological survey and stuff.
Stuff? Maybe you
Does
need
he
to
do
get
that?
maybe you need to get Azarkron to come out and visit you and find some of that stuff.
That would be awesome.
Seriously, man. Jeez.
That's funny.
Oh boy, man. I feel like we can talk for ages. Coming up on the 2-hour mark. Is there anything else you're kind of burning a hole in your pocket there, Jimmy? You wanna put out on the table for discussion, for conversation?
I don't know. Let's see. I had some ideas floating around, but I think it's fun just talking Splinterlands and seeing stuff. Golem Overlord. I'll mention that just because I think it's cool to see watching the game kind of be successful. Kind of shows us some certain things. You have this Splinterlands demographic. I mean, that's why that game just took off, because it had this whole community of people who are hungry for games, hungry for crypto things, hungry for Web3. And here is this different kind of game, coming through, which it's I guess, what is it, resource management, you might call it, or something like that. But it just shows how people have this enthusiasm for doing it. How people could become kind of obsessed with playing a game and advancing in it. It's showing how cosmetics sell. He's selling are you guys doing that at all? Are you doing any of the Golem Overlord stuff?
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
I think Ben's a little more into it than I am. I do. I mean, I play. I haven't put too much money into it apart from like the basic entry fee, but I do, and I don't, even like claim every 8 hours, maybe once a day if I can, but it's, I do like it. I think it is cool. I think it could go somewhere, but I'm kind of, it's on my tier of things I need to do in life. It's, below my Splinterlands daily play, which is, kind of bumped down from my normal life responsibilities these days too. Like you saying, sometimes I just don't have time to do it. So sometimes I just don't have time to get to it. But yeah, no, I think it is definitely cool. And like you said, some of the artwork and stuff they're coming out with, it looks pretty awesome.
Yeah, I think it just shows that there is this hunger for these projects, for other games in the space. Cosmetics, the fact that he's selling these backgrounds that don't give you a bonus, but they're purely cosmetic, and people are buying them. It's like I'm dying for Splinterlands to catch up with some of that stuff. I know that they've had to fixing the spaceship in flight, redoing all their code. I know it's taken a lot of work and it's taken a lot of resources. But once we're past that hurdle, I think we're going to see a lot of amazing shit.
I completely agree, man. I recently, and Hep, to your point, I definitely bit the bullet and dropped in a good chunk of change into Golem Overlord. I just cracked the top 500 maybe 2 weeks ago.
So how much card do you pull in on a claim with something like that?
130, 140 after a couple battles. Yeah.
Okay.
I'm about
to
hit
a guild. Are you still in our guild that I set up?
The fact that you ask is making me think maybe I should go somewhere else. But yes,
I was about to say, did you leave? Have you left already?
You
And
join
moved on to a bigger, better YGG guild?
Is there a Jimmy guild?
There is. I set up 5 accounts on Golem Overlord right out of the gate, just with stuff I had, which may have been a mistake. I don't know. I've got mixed feelings about this. If I dumped all of that into one account, I definitely would have been way further ahead. But my main FatJimmy is doing pretty good. I'm just almost at level 10. Pulling in about I think I'm up to about 120 part per claim right now. And that account, I'm just dumping everything back in pretty much, just 100%. Let me see how I could grow it. The other 4, I got my money back pretty quick, because this was before you had the 80% requirement of part you had to dump back in, to keep the claim bonus.
You could make your money back in like
Oh, I
less than
made my
a
money
week at
back in
first.
2 days. I
Yeah,
opened
yeah, yeah.
accounts, and like 2 or 3 days later, I had every hive back that I put in. So I said, perfect. This is now, play money. So, I'm growing the 5 accounts. It takes a little more time. I don't battle with my other 4. I'm working on it takes too long, so just claim type of thing. But I'm taking 10% out from those other 4 accounts. So every time I claim and put invest, I'll take 10% out and put that onto another holding account. And then, once that reaches a certain amount, I'll buy more. I'll buy SPS or maybe some cards or something, So
Nice.
still growing the overlord, still keeping that 10% buffer going back in. My main is all, just seeing how big I can get the damn thing. But I don't know if you can do it these days, but with the amount of claiming you have to put back in, the amount of part you have, you're forced to put that 80% back in. I don't know how long.
Yeah, definitely take longer.
Yeah.
Someone in our, I'm in the Phoenix Arcade Guild group, and someone was talking about how they just said they put a couple $100 in, and they were able, the things that they did where they're, maxing out really defense and they're scavengers that they're like, I can get, and they got it to the point where they're like, it got to level 15 where you can then do the thing where you can claim every like 6 hours or something like that, the shorter claim. And he says he's like up to, like, I forget what it was. I think he says he's like, he's getting like, being able to claim like 1,000 part a day, basically, because he's being able to get like 3 or 4 different claims in.
Yeah.
And I don't know how much of it he's like cashing out or recycling back in. I think he's still recycling a lot back in, but
you have to recycle 80% back in just to keep your claim level even. Otherwise,
yeah.
I'm kind of looking at that. Yeah, and I was just going to say I've been recycling 100% back in at this point. I'm waiting for part to move back up. I don't know if it will ever reach. I think when we first hopped into Golem Overlord, part was going for like 90 cents or some absurd price. I don't think it will ever reach those heights again, but if it goes 10, 15, 20 cents, I'll definitely be taking some off the top. But I love what Yixin has done with the NFTs, like the backgrounds, the aesthetics. There is no utility, right, other than the visual appeal, and it's a scarce NFT. And the way that he does it is something like it's going to run, the sale is going to run for 30 days, but every day that total NFT volume decreases by 10% or something like that, based off of the first 24 hours of sale.
I didn't even know how he did that there.
He's got some really cool mechanics built into how total volume is identified. It's not, he doesn't walk into the sale with, okay, there's 1,000 of these NFTs available. It's how many sell in that first 24 hours. Okay, we're going to scale that out times 30. Every day it's going to deplete by 10%. Don't quote me on that, but it's some mechanic like that where volume is dictated based upon the initial interest. Yeah, it's very, very cool.
It's pretty cool, man. It also shows me, like, I'm watching this and I'm changing there's some cool backgrounds you could buy, and I'm thinking, Splinterlands can do this with like the background on the battle screen. They could definitely just sell these cool different backgrounds that are.
Man, I would eat that up, man. I would eat that up.
More skins, like more skins for vouchers.
Yeah,
please.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like Battle Pass has to tick a lot of these boxes, right? Battle Pass has to bring skins, maybe some exclusive music, or I feel like there's some really cool stuff that bot farms clearly don't give two shits about. But the real humans, I want to be able to flex. Yeah, I want to be able to flex that stuff.
Yeah, they get many shits for such things.
Many shits. I'll shit all day for this stuff.
That's Weirdbeard's got some great ideas and motivation and stuff. Meeting him at Splinterfest was huge too, because just getting to talk to him face to face really made me realize how much passion he had for the project, or has for the project, what he sees it as, and the potential that he sees that we can achieve. Having someone like that with that vision on the team right now, I think, is incredibly positive. We have barely begun to see what he wants to happen. And it's what a lot of us want to happen, like with this battle pass and different game modes and stuff. Different levels. Like, I think free to play is vital for getting people in. I think there should be a free to play mode on every freaking level, all the way up to champ, where you're not earning rewards, but you can battle. Because I even hit that point where I'll do even though I have a scholar, it's balanced out. And there are days where I'll go through my 24 battles and I want to do 24 more. That doesn't take that long. I want to sit there for another hour or so and just keep throwing battles out there. But you can't without buying them. You can do the Xbox challenge thing is kind of cool, but you don't always have the best options of people to match up with. I'm trying to look for, give me a full deck, give me champ, let's see what we got.
Yeah, that stuff's a lot. That's a lot of fun. Yeah, I know. Like we were saying, I wish there could be something where,
I think there's going to be though.
Rooney or something. Let's play a little bit more. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I would love to see Rooney just give you access to some things that you would not, again, even if it's a discount on freaking energy or just, little things like that, where just keep giving value to these things that are supposed to have a tremendous amount of value.
Yeah, I look forward to, and the Xbot, what is it called? The challenge system that's on Xbot. It is cool, but at the same time, you're playing just another bot. Like it's fun, but I'm playing against Xbot fielding FatJimmy's collection, right? It's not as like I can't hop on Discord and talk shit to you after you just handed it to me with your alpha beta stuff. So I do feel like there's room for improvement. I would love. I forget who it was. It might have been Boba Fett, who's part of the Matt Clark Geotrix Splinterlands 101 crew. He suggested the challenge feature be switched to like a tournament snapshot mode. So like I could send you a challenge, assuming that you'll accept. I'll be able to fill in my team, see the rule sets and mana cap and that sort of stuff. And then next time you log in, you'll have the ability to accept the challenge, fill in your team, and then it's available for view. And being able, it'd be it feels like like that technology is already there for tournaments and brawls. It feels like it would be a really easy extension to, obviously I don't have the dev knowledge to tell you, actually it's, I imagine the code base like a spider web. You touch here and all of a sudden there's ripples across 100 different places and you just break the whole system trying to, exactly. But I feel that there are some easy quality of life things that I feel like would go a long way, and being able to play more for free is one of them.
Well, that would be so much fun too, because you could just be like, I would want to send, Jangles, I'd want to send you like one or two a day, or, and then, we're going to have FatJimmy on, let's send him a couple and then we could talk about it here. And, you have your friends, your guild mates, your buddies, everybody. You could just, that's a way to get like, 5, 10, it's more engagement with the game. You get like 5, 10 extra battles in a day that are meaningful and fun and, and then
the person, which is huge.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That human interaction and creating a stronger community by doing that would be a lot of fun. If you could just randomly, I could be like, oh, maybe I'm going to I know this person from Maverick chat, but I'm not in Maverick chat. I can't like talk to them, but I see their name come up. Let me just try to throw them a random challenge and see if they'll accept stuff like that. That would be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and customizing battles. Like when we were fighting yesterday, I was fighting Bojangles or B-Jangles, I'll call you. I like Bojangles, but
how about Jimmy Jangles?
Jimmy Jangles, that's an app name right there. That's a model call, the Jimmy Jangles. But yeah, like when we were doing, like, I do modern. We could only send. You could only choose basically the league for sending a challenge. We couldn't say modern, wild, diamond, silver, gold, or something. It's all just very. I would love to see a customized challenge sender.
Something else I completely agree, man. And the challenge function I don't think has gotten a whole lot of love recently. So that would be a really easy win, just to enable guys like us to be able to play additionally for free in a more customizable setting. But something else I would love to see is like the three of us, for example, could hop into like a battle room, and then it just automatically winner stays. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, right.
Like I challenge Jimmy wins, Hepthorn automatically pops into the next battle. Hepthorn wins, I automatically pop back in. You know what I mean? Just to have like the challenge system is fun, but I feel like there's some really easy low hanging fruit to improve upon it and really drive that human social element further with, you know, like that round robin style winner stays just for fun. There's nothing on the line. You know, maybe we could on under the table, we can put, you know, 1,000 DEC for the first person that gets 10 wins. Yeah. Something like that. That's fun stuff, man.
Really, really, really hoping that, you know, all this work, because these guys have been working this whole bull market. You know, it's not like, oh, nothing's happening, blah, blah, blah. Like these guys have been working their asses off. And I'm just really hopeful that soon we'll start to see all these changes that we're talking about. You know, the day always on in-game notification system comes, I might have to have a party.
Party at Region 24. Come on over.
Just raging in Region 24. But I think I'm 26 and 7 are where my tracts are. I think I just have a plotter view in 24. But yeah, anyway, I honestly, I think it's coming. I think we're going to start seeing, I cannot wait to start seeing all that low hanging fruit, you know, and I don't know all the behind the scenes, you know, again, I think there's so much going on with tech modernization that is really the hinge to everything moving forward. And I know they're not done with that, you know, so it's like as soon as the whole back end is caught up and synchronized, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of that low-hanging fruit getting addressed in big stages.
Well, I mean, you were just talking about Weirdbeard and what he brings to the table, and you're absolutely right. And it's been, you know, I love that he recently got promoted to, I think it's enhancement team, if I'm not mistaken. But it feels like for the first year of his career at Splinterlands, all he was doing was soliciting feedback, like building this case for era 2.0 of Weirdbeard at the helm of team enhancement. So, and I feel like he's got a long list of stuff that he's been collecting data on, doing really deep dive research on, and it's a coming. Yeah, and we're just starting to see the tip of the iceberg.
I think you're right, man. I mean, I think he's got his finger on the pulse, you know, he's coming from the player aspect and he's coming from the esports angle. And I mean, if you just start scrolling through Discord, he's everywhere. He's active in Mav chat. He's in the tavern. He's talking to everybody on all levels, you know, from freaking bronze up to champ. There's been times where we'll start talking, you know, we'll start DMing about shit, and it's like 11 or 12 my time in California, you know, and so that means it's like 1 or 2 where he's at, and he's up doing Splinterlands work, you know. And I know if he's talking to me, I'm not the only guy he's talking to, you know. He'll start talking to you about something and genuinely want what's your feedback, what's your feeling on this, what, you know, what's your take on this, what's your angle. And I just think he's a tremendous asset to the team right now. And again, I think what he's been doing, like you're saying, is he's just been collecting. You know, he's just been positioning. He's been getting the temperature and really seeing what people want on every level. You know, from whales to who invest to people who play the game in bronze. And I think that input will be invaluable moving forward. And I think he's got some great ideas lined up.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to that. It seems like he's taken such a more prominent position in, you know, the town halls in the last, you know, few months as well. So it's good to see that kind of, you know, all that work that he's done is starting to come to the forefront a little bit more. Definitely excited to see where it goes.
Absolutely.
I want to get you guys' feeling. I don't think we've talked about it on air, Hep, but Weirdbeard having taken this more prominent position with the enhancements team, he was very quick to stamp out, we're not giving dates. Our roadmap is going from, you know, like the Rand McNally Atlas to here's your 5 steps over the next 6 months. You know, it was drilled down to only the stuff that we can guarantee is coming. I think initially, personally, I was like, oh man, what the hell is going on? Like, we want to know dates. We want to know what's going on. Like there's all this other stuff going on in the background. We know this is not all that you're working on, but at the same time, and now that we've had this kind of new era of kind of news dripping into the ecosystem, I'm a big fan of it. Like we knew that No Bot Modern was coming. We didn't have a timeline, and then all of a sudden it was like, hey, this is coming next week, and all of a sudden, the whole community is buzzing. So what do you guys think about that, and how are you feeling about kind of entering into the next week with a little bit of an element of the unknown as to what awaits?
Bring it on. I like surprises sometimes, unless that surprises you need 1 million DEC to work your land,
or no Rudy on 1.5
or Rudy on 1.5. Yes. At least it's not a penalty. Rooney's not a penalty at 1.5.
Yeah.
Much. But, the financial stuff, it's sometimes nice to have some warning and some prep time, to get ready for. Even, with the land white paper coming out a couple months ago at this point, it's, after waiting years, it still doesn't seem like it's a lot of prep time. Even though it has been months, we didn't know details. You didn't know how much gold foils were going to be valued over regular foils. I would have thought legendaries would have had much more of a pull. A regular foil legendary would have more of a pull than, some of these like lower level gold foils are worth more, produce more than regular foil legendaries. So it's kind of a crazy balance, and you have to see numbers to know sometimes. So surprises can be great when it's something like, guess what? No more bots in Modern tomorrow. But when money is required, it's nice to have a little notification so we could try to get some.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And yeah, it's interesting. I think what's behind it is they just want to try to move to where we're not just trying to rush something out just so we can meet a date, and we want to rush something out so it's higher quality. I think I support that. And I think it is probably better. And then, it's one of the big things he's heard in all of his feedback is that you promise something. It's when it comes out, it's not either when it comes out, it's not what we expected, or it takes months, or in the case of land, years later than we expected it to be. Right. So, maybe it's kind of just like they wanted to stamp that out, which it makes sense moving forward. I mean, you look at a lot of other games, and you don't get really any warning. You don't get these, like you're saying before, Jimmy, you're saying you don't get, what other projects do you get these people going on like a town hall or doing an Ask Me Anything every week where they're talking about, hey, this is what we're trying to do, or they're getting feedback from people. So I think it's one of those things where typically a lot of these things just happen behind closed doors, and then they're presented with, hey, this is what we're doing right now. It's going live. And I think you're trying to see them kind of try to reach that middle ground where they want to include people. They want us to give us some warning, but setting hard dates for stuff is probably detrimental to them actually being able to deliver, stuff, that's quality to that they want to reach. So.
Or impossible, or literally impossible. I have a hard time with hard dates with building apps.
Unless it's going on Jimmy Fallon.
Unless you're Fogarty. Yeah, if you're John Fogarty, we can get you a hard date. But
I was still waiting to see a plume of smoke come out of that from the TV. It's like, will blow up. But it's like that. You give someone a hard date and something goes wrong. All of a sudden I'm like, all right, this has to be done tomorrow. And then I fire it up and something's wrong. And it could be just a bad component or a bad tube or something. Or I think Aggie said the other day, Dev forgets a colon and you have to find where that is. It's like there's that level of you're doing something new and you don't know if it's going to work when you turn it on. So when that's the case, you can't give these incredibly hard dates. I think that's my take on it.
Yeah, I think Hep, along the lines of what you were saying, removing the hard dates and removing, we've been spoiled by a huge degree of transparency, getting to pull back that curtain every week, ask all these questions, getting full answers, full disclosure, and having that curtain shut a little bit to public scrutiny and Q&A till the cows come home on Town Hall. This goes hand in hand with spacing Town Halls out every 2 weeks, which I think was ultimately the right move. But it mitigates so much salt, right? Like if we don't have the ammunition of you promised Battles 2.0 on August 1st, we're now on August 14th. Where the hell are Battles 2.0? Like we have nothing to bitch and moan about. Whereas, they'll find something, but it's going to be nitpicky stuff.
Some people will find something.
But agreed. But generally, I feel like this new kind of plan of attack for moving forward on the roadmap, only highlighting the big, very high level wins, gives the team, a vantage point of, we can achieve these things, and then we're going to surprise you with lots of little stuff along the way, which I think it's a smart move. It was probably long overdue. We should have done that, right when the bear market and the salt started to pile up. But yeah, generally speaking, I think it's in everybody's best interest to proceed this way.
It is. I like the change to the town square. It's kind of like the old AMAs used to be. I don't know if you were around when they used to have the AMAs, and it's like that, where it was a discussion, and people could actually, participate like that. So
you hopped on a couple of weeks ago, didn't you?
I think I did. Yeah, I might have been screaming Jimmy for no reason. Just
nice.
Yeah, I think the acronym made an appearance actually.
It sure did, because they probably thought that's what I was going to be asking about.
Well, Jimmy, tell us next couple months. Look into your crystal ball. Tell us what are you most excited about? How I think it's pretty clear how you're feeling about the game, generally speaking. But is there something that you've seen on the roadmap, or something that you kind of gotten a whiff of with your ear to the ground for the next coming months that you're particularly excited about?
Well, were you on last night when Cryptomancer was drinking cinnamon fireball and releasing some alpha in Mav chat?
No, I sure was not, but that's a poor beverage choice if I say so myself.
I'm making that up completely. I don't know where that even came from. But
there's much better booze in Japan than cinnamon fireball. Come on, Cryptomancer.
Yeah, I was just going to make up some awesome thing he was talking about, but no, I don't. I generally think I'm excited to get past Land 1.5. I think it's a bigger project than they ever anticipated when Land was created, and I think it's becoming. I think it's growing. Like when Nate confirmed, I had mentioned something like this, and Nate had said that's exactly right. Where I think the Land is laying the foundation, and even though the team has not said this, a metaverse. I think the Praetoria is going to be this thing that's bigger than anyone even realizes right now. Not only for the generating NFTs and crafting items and spells, I think it's going to be so much more than that. I think there's going to be more focus on the continent, and we're actually going to kind of create a world and exist more in that world. If that kind of makes sense, as far as like the tournaments are going to be here, and you're actually going to start seeing different guilds hosting I think there's just going to be so much more that we haven't even begun to think about. I think the foundation is being laid for a freaking empire, for a metaverse. And I can't wait to see what that holds. That's way more than a few months away, though.
Yeah.
Few months.
Hard point talking on here, and he was talking about the different possibilities, and Nate was on as well. And I know you're an old school D&D guy. Like it could be more like a D&D game than anything. And that is like such an awesome opportunity that we could have, which it would be so cool.
Yeah, I could see a bunch of different campaigns, or just different the possibilities are endless. And I think if they build the foundation correctly, we will see a lot of things moving forward, like that. And I think they're taking the time to do it right, so that when they do want to start releasing things like that, the foundation is there to do it. As far as next few months go, I'd just be really happy to not have to buy more cards for a while. Like, I don't want to see a movie mini set just yet. I I got to finish up my gold foil Riftwatchers, man. That's another thing. People are like, oh, we got to burn Riftwatchers, otherwise they're going to lose all their value. I'm like, have you seen what they're selling for right now?
Yeah.
Even if you triple the supply right now, they're going to have a tremendous amount of value because of their usefulness in battle. And then if we start onboarding new players, forget about it.
That's my biggest thing is I want cards available. I want packs available for new players. There should always be packs available for new players. I voted no on that. I think there always needs to be packs available for new players. I don't think they should have burned Chaos Legion for that reason. Really don't think they should burn Riftwatchers for that reason. I think we need to have faith that we're going to get the player base. People are going to want packs. And, you should have those available from the game, from the company. They're easier to buy than figuring out how to buy them on Hive, or I guess, having the in-game market to buy them now helps a lot. But I don't know. I don't think they should have burned Chaos Legion the way they did. I
agree.
Definitely shouldn't burn Riftwatchers, especially since that money's going to the DAO. Why, if we're all part of the DAO with our voting and everything like that, this is money that comes into the DAO. It seems like we're voting against our own interests just so the values of some cards some people already hold go up in some short term, medium term, and the long term. I think it's a terrible idea. I very disappointed by the amount of yes votes we already have on that. I thought they set a bad precedent when they started doing the Chaos Legion. Sorry, I'm going on a rant here.
I love it. Bring it on.
This is our podcast to talk to interesting people. No one listens to this thing to hear me talk. I know that. But
we do.
This is something I feel very passionately about. I don't like burning packs. We need to have a lower cost of entry for new players to be onboarded. There should be more packs. There should always be packs available. We burned all Chaos Legion, so that's out the window with that. Can we just keep Riftwatchers? There's not that many packs. Keep it there. Just keep it there. Just keep it there until Rebellion comes out. When Rebellion comes out, we can talk about burning Riftwatchers.
Right. I agree. Okay? There should always be a pack available.
Yeah.
I don't think Riftwatchers should be burned until they say Rebellion will be first on the shelf. You can buy it by clicking a button on this date. Then if Riftwatchers hasn't sold out, you think about it.
Yeah.
And I still don't think we should be burning. It's crazy. Chaos Legion is so, quote, overprinted. But I mean, if you combine every single freaking card into max, there's less than 5,000 decks out there. There's less than, that's not even enough for our current player base for everyone to play champ. And if we start hitting those exponential levels, if we get 100,000 players, if we get 1 million players, if we get 10 million players, you know how rare Chaos Legion will be, even at 15 million packs? It's going to be almost nothing. Same with Riftwatchers. Those cards are so good.
Yeah.
And they're selling way more than Dice did price wise. I remember
you mean the packs or the cards?
The cards. Freaking Mylor was twice as much as all the other summoners at 66 cents. I remember this. All the other,
you could probably get Dallin for 66 cents.
Oh, of course you bring up my boy.
Is he 66 cents now, Dallin? Cripple, he's badass, man. Did you catch Sound of Silence? Did you ever see that?
I don't know if I saw. I don't know if I caught.
I don't think
one.
I did.
He made
did he dig at Dallin?
It was all. I honestly think it should have been called The Sound of Dallin. That would have made more sense on the spoof factor, because it was all about. You should check it out. Go on YouTube when we're done. Look up The Sound of Silence. Should have been called Sound of Dallin. I'm just going to throw it out there, and it's all about Dallin. It's a brilliant satirical piece. I think it's absolutely genius.
I will definitely check that out. That's right up my alley. I not so silently 79 cents.
So more expensive than Mylor.
Yeah, Mylor was 33 or 66 at the cheapest. Everything else.
Well, I would guess that a max copy Dallin is still cheaper, right? Because you need less than half of the 46. Total BCX. Yeah, versus 115.
Right. But then some of those legendary cards are just ridiculously expensive right now. Like freaking Aggroed and the Coral Lurker and stuff. Those are
so good.
$20 a pop for a regular foil right now.
Yeah.
Up there. But my point is the floor is still way higher. Floor for Chaos Legion is higher than Untamed was when it was in print. and it's out of print right now, but I mean, Untamed, I was scooping up Untamed at the very end for like 003 to 005 cent commons. That's what Untamed was at for the less desired commons. Kron was $2, and he was the biggest one. He was the most expensive one. Summoners, I remember Jodin 12 to 16, was kind of the floor for Jodin. And
that's just nuts, man. That is nuts.
But that's where we're at. If Chaos Legion was so overprinted, we'd see those legendary summoners at like $2, not at 10.
And I mean, there's a lot at play there. The player base is much bigger than it was with Untamed. We've got the advent of land, which is, I'm with you. I think land is going to overnight change everything when it comes to the market. Like you, I have a really bad habit of, if I have DEC in game, it's not going to be there for very long. So I made a very deliberate decision to move all of my DEC for land onto Hive Engine. So I could technically still spend it, but it's a little bit more of a pain in the ass to make it available for spending.
One extra click.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how this Riftwatcher stuff pans out, because Aggroed has said time and time again he wants sets for 9 months and then a 3-month break. Right now we're I think it's next month. You guys correct me if I'm wrong, that Riftwatchers hits its first birthday on shelves, and we've just cracked 30%. We just passed the million marker. I think we have seen some significant movement since it became available for DEC purchase. But even if the burn, so if we're at 1.5 million packs, Matt put forth the proposal that it was 15K per day. That's 100 days of pack burns, with 10% kind of being allocated to the DAO for future use. That would put us in it towards the end of the year. Does that kind of time frame change either of your opinions on pack burning, or do you still fully convicted we need packs in store until that it naturally sells out?
That's a tough call, man. I like Aggie's concept, and I think it should work for main pack. Like, that should be the concept for main sets. 9 months. I like the built-in predetermined burn idea. Like if we're gonna do it, like, say, all right, we're gonna put out 15 million packs, same as Chaos Legion. At this certain date, we will start burning this many per day. I like it if it's preset. Then I'll be a little more supportive of it.
If it's known outright before the sale begins.
Right. Yeah. And I mean, it almost sounds a little counterintuitive, but I do see it as completely different things.
Sure.
And I do see this. I mean, they did Riftwatch or Chaos Legion at a point where we were onboarding, tons of people, or tons of bots, tons of accounts were being created daily. So it seemed like there was this exponential growth going on. So I could see how that was needed. I really like the idea of 9 months on and 3 months off for a main set. I think that's brilliant, because I think it creates the type of hype we saw at the end of Untamed before Chaos Legion came out, where the prices just went absolutely insane. If we're in any type of a positive market, I think that 3-month gap will create, a continuous a hype cycle every time that we get there.
And that would happen naturally for the, what do you call it? The supplemental sets like Dice and Riftwatchers, just based on pure scarcity, right? The volume of cards printed.
Exactly. Like, let those run their course naturally. I mean, I almost wouldn't think there's a problem with having Riftwatchers and the next subset available at the same time. If
they're both modern.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if it's in the modern format, let it run its course, especially since it is DAO funded. And I just think we're also at a time right now, like, so many people are saving up for land. So many people are buying cards for land. Riftwatchers has been a low priority. If you have your set, you're not buying more. If I was not saving up for land, I would be scooping up so many freaking Riftwatchers cards right now. Like, because they're so good in battle. I know they're going to have high rent value. I think just as digital assets, they're freaking fantastic. And if I was If I didn't need DEC for land, I'd be buying so many Riftwatchers right now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, look at the rental market. If you look at the rental market for cards, Riftwatchers are some of the cards that have kept the most rental value of all the, the rental market has tanked, and like the Riftwatchers has kept a lot of their value for it.
Yeah.
Better than
both
other cards.
resale and rental.
And rental, yeah.
Yeah, resale is huge on Riftwatchers too. I mean, some of those legendary gold foils, there's just no liquidity. I'm still waiting to get my ancient redwood gold maxed, and I'm kicking myself for not buying them at $75 a few months ago or a few weeks ago when it was out there. I just scooped up a Kane Hayes at $80 a BCX, to get my level 3 up to a level 4. And it was one of Gene Pool's liquidation sales right there. I was like, you know what? I'm just freaking buying it. It's rental income. I need it for land, but the hell with it. I'm just buying this card. And some of the Aggroed, Coral, they're hundreds of dollars, and there's only a few for sale.
I pulled a Coral Lurker and gold foil and
nice.
And Brewmaster Flores gold foil, and I'm kind of kicking myself for not selling them immediately because the prices are still really high, but they're probably half of what they were 6 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, the liquidity is very low on all those cards. So yeah, I'm looking at let's see, Brewmaster Flores right now. There's 2 cards in the market right now.
For how much?
One is 99, the other is 220.
So yeah, I think I paid $90 to $100 for my Brewmasters and gold foils.
Yeah.
But how much was it when you pulled it? It wasn't that much more.
That card was I remember looking at it to sell it when I pulled it. It was probably 175, and the Coral Lurker was around 300. And it's at like 150 right now.
Waiting on I sat and waited on Coral Lurkers to, whenever a cheap one would hit the market, cheap meaning like $150.
Yeah.
Like, I'm gonna buy that. Let me snag it. But there.
I know. I do gold foil brawls though, so I was like,
nice.
I'm just gonna keep these cards. Yeah.
Hell yeah. Gold foil's the way to go, man. It's something I've learned. It's something I wish I did more of in the past. Was spending the extra when there's a 30% difference for in-print cards to get a max gold foil versus regular foil version. I think it just pays, with the tournaments, with the bonuses for ranked play, it pays off. It really does.
Especially Speaking right now, gold foil summoners are dirt cheap, relatively speaking. You can get. I have so many because I play in gold level. I've started to level up my gold foil summoners and I do it for brawl and just regular too. But now it's like I'm paying less right now to get a gold foil summoner than I did Chaos Legion summoners to when I a year ago when I was buying summoners to get into gold. Yeah,
but that's the cycle, and that's what people freak out and they're like, and this is a repeated thing. We've seen this time and time and time again. And but price is going down. There's too many. It's like we're at the end of a print run. We're at the max saturation for a lot of things. Guess what? It cycles through. The value goes up. These things become out of print. Digital scarcity does kick in, and the value will go up. If we attract new players, I think that's the key for this whole thing. Is we need to just expand that player base, and if we do that, everything that we have right now is going to be so incredibly scarce. We can't. I think most people can't even conceive of what it would mean to have 1 million players in this ecosystem. And for a game, that's not that many. 1 million players is not that many. If we hit that point, everything changes. I don't think DEC is going to be under peg if there's 1 million players all trying to get DEC. I think everything hinges on just expanding the player base.
Man, yeah, I can't even begin to speculate what does SPS look like at 1 million players. That SPS staking requirement is just gonna. It's going to
go down. I think that will go down.
It would have to change.
It has to.
Yeah, it should. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, real quickly, guys, and talking about gold foils, I did just not for the sake of tournaments or for land, but for the to make up for kind of my lack of SPS requirements for playing in Diamond and Champ. I tried to supplement that with some gold foils, I just went and bought a gold foil Chaos Agent and gold foil Supply Runner.
Yeah.
And I remember for a long time, Chaos Agent I play all the time, so it's kind of a no-brainer. It's got the most utility of any of the elements, right? It's neutral. You can play it in every single rule set pretty much.
That's the key. That's the I did that with Untamed. I was going through, and you're like, wow, buying a maxed gold foil version is only a few bucks more than a regular foil, so
a no-brainer.
So I bought all of the cards I was using the most, or using a lot. Like if a deal came up, I bought like a maxed gelatinous cube. Turned out to be one of the greatest things ever. A failed summoner, living lava.
Nice.
Just these certain cards where you're just like feasting seaweed, parasitic growth, mantoid. Just these certain ones where I'm like, I use this all the time. It's worth the few extra bucks to buy gold foil to get that bonus. Let me do that. And that was
it had to have paid for itself by now, huh?
Oh yeah, I'm still kicking myself so hard. I missed gold foil stories. I missed $75 for a maxed Phineas Rage gold foil, a maxed Spark Pixies gold foil. Like I was like, ooh, I should buy those. Let me move some funds around. And by the time I came back, gone. Worst one ever. I saw every alpha gold foil summoner.
Oh no.
For $300 maxed each. I remember seeing it come up on the market. It's a couple of years ago, I'm running out of the house. I was like late for something. I'm like, I can't buy this now. And the whole time I'm gone, I'm like, $300 each. I'm like, it was still a lot of money back then. We hadn't hit the boom yet. I was like, oh man, something's telling me I should just freaking do this. It would be stupid not to. It'd be stupid not to. I get home, they're still up there. I start moving some funds around, gone. And gone for a few hours. I got back. I was like, I'm doing it. I'm going to buy them. All the alpha gold foil summoners disappeared for $300 each. And I'm still kicking myself. I could enter each freaking tournament and just.
Yeah. Those tournaments too, that would have paid for themselves probably by
now. Lucrative. Super lucrative. Oh yeah.
Yeah. So
Selenia Sky, 1 BCX, 28 grand.
$300. God damn it.
Yeah, talk about win Lambo. Jeez Louise. That's crazy. What do you guys think about it, the GLG pack sales? I really like. Yeah, and kind of going back to what we were talking about earlier, Golem Overlord, the way that Yixin has kind of put together the mechanics on defining overall volume that's going to hit the market, that sort of stuff. I think it's really interesting to shake that up and not necessarily enter into the sale with a definitive number. But also on the flip side, what GLG has already employed, I think they offered if you opened packs within the first 2 or 3 weeks or something of the packs being available to open, your percentage chance of flipping over a gold foil was increased exponentially. Yeah. And it decreased the further you got away from day one. Man, I would love that sort of stuff to come into Splinterlands, and I think it would really shake things up. And we had Gank. I wasn't here for it, but it's kind of become his infamous. I told you so, but I was definitely wrong. I think he said Chaos Legion was going to sell out in like a week or some absurd number. A day.
He was a day.
A day. He was just a little off there, but if we have that percentage chance of gold foils, that very well could happen, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, honestly, considering where we were coming from, I don't think it was that far fetched. It was just that we had that crash right before the Chaos Legion sale. I think we could have maybe sold out in a day if things had remained as bullish as they were. But literally, I was watching my Bitcoin go to a third of what it was in like a few days. All of a sudden it's just like, oh shit, I'm buying less packs than I thought I was going to buy. No.
But would you be interested in seeing? You're a gold foil player. I'm sure. I can guess what your answer would be, but the mechanic around that gold foil percentage chance in like opening days of a pack sale, is that something you'd like to see enter into Splinterlands?
I'd have to think about that. That's kind of a cool little bonus incentive to, sell some packs and to get things rolling. But if it dilutes the gold foil availability too much, I wouldn't really support that. I think
That's a fair point.
You have to maintain the gold foil excitement. I want to be able to pop open an alpha pack and have that chance of getting a gold foil. I don't want that to be reduced to 0 or to almost nothing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. How is that number predetermined? So like, do we know?
Yeah,
legendary. We do.
Yeah, I'd have to look it up. I used to have that memorized, but I mean, each card has a rarity drop rate, and then there's a gold foil percentage chance based off that, and that is consistent through every edition.
Yeah, I wonder how would they balance that without oversaturating the gold foil market.
It would have.
It's definitely a cool approach, and I like the out of the box thinking and a fresh approach to generating that hype and excitement when a new set enters the fray. Yeah,
especially if it's a small set. Then there's less effects of having a few more gold foils out there. Because it's still a rare set. And again, on the big scheme of things, I'd imagine the first edition Genesis is going to be a relatively small set compared to things coming after.
True. Cool. All right, guys. Well, we're about an hour ago, I said we were coming up on the 2-hour mark. Is there anything else we want to talk about? Yeah, we found some things. We found some things to talk about. Oh man, Jimmy, this has been an absolute blast, man. I would, happily extend the open invitation for you to come on and talk shop at any point in the future. And been great talking shop, been great hearing your story through music and how you grew your business. And, I will definitely be talking Grateful Dead with you after we get off the show, man. I'm you can't see it, but I've got some Grateful Dead artwork up on the wall behind me, and I've got some vinyl sitting down here waiting for a purchase of a turntable out here in Taiwan.
Nice. Right on. Yeah. Thank you so much, man. This has been a blast. Absolute pleasure talking to both you guys, man. Anytime.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. Any final words there, Jimmy? You want to hype up the crowd and toss your elevator pitch for FatJimmy amps?
Always on getting the notification system. Come on, always on.
That's all he really cares about.
Remember Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure with that one guy with San Dimas High School football rules?
Yeah.
Always on in-game notification system. Yeah, I'm thinking of that. Yeah. Also got to say Jimmy. And any musicians out there who want literally one of the finest amps on the planet, don't take my word for it. Look at who's playing them, get online and do some research. I will trade for SPS. Actually, another point there, Travis Wright from the Bad Crypto podcast this might be the first SPS for tangible goods sale. He bought a FatJimmy amplifier. The deposit was Bitcoin. The final payment was SPS.
That is awesome, man. Nice. How has that not been, I've heard of goats being purchased for DEC, but how has an amplifier for SPS not made the airwaves?
I don't know. I guess I'm not screaming about it enough during town halls.
Well, that's badass. Very cool.
And I honestly think it was the first tangible. It was before Splinterfest. It was the first tangible goods for SPS. Pretty sure that's the case. So any musicians out there looking for one of the finest amplifiers available, I will take SPS at fatjimmyamps.com.
Nice.
Anything do you have it set up, payment set up to take crypto at
no, I don't even have payment set up to take fiat, man. You gotta email me and it's this huge pain in the ass, and I'll turn you down if I don't like you.
just pretend you're John Fogerty when you email FatJimmy. That'll bump you to the front of the line.
John Fogerty with SPS.
Yes. Oh, cool. All right, Jimmy. Man. Again, man, this has been an absolute blast. 3 hours just disappeared in the blink of an eye. It's been so much fun hearing your story, talking music, talking Splinterlands. Look forward to doing it again, man. And yeah, thank you again for taking the time to hop on, dude.
Yeah, thanks for having me, man. And let's hear everyone do it. Jimmy.
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 Yes. Right
There
on.
we go. There we go. All right, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. You have been listening to
The People's Guild.
Jimmy.